3 days of competition, nearly 100 boats and 6 full-on races. The crystal clear water of Lake Garda has drawn an entry list that reads like a who's who of racing, with a few sailing legends thrown into the mix. The eyes of the sailing world are firmly set on this iconic venue. 96 teams from 23 countries, 20 star world champions, 5 Olympic medalists, and another 10 Olympians are among the sailors duking it out. For the first time, professionals as well as amateurs join in fierce competition alongside star-class stalwarts to try to win the star-class European title, 2,500 SSL ranking points, and the lion's share of the $100,000 prize pot. Conditions are set to test the best of the best. We're in the penultimate day of racing and the pressure is on to make the cut. Welcome to Riva del Garda and the first ever Star Sailors League Breeze Grand Slam. Well, mist, clouds and a little bit of drizzle. That was the scene at Fraglia Vella Riva on Lake Garda this morning. The sailors prepping for race number 7, which is due to start in just a few minutes. Well, these are the live shots from the race course out there on Lake Garda. And Giancarlo Crevatin, our principal race officer, is good to go in just a few minutes. Before they went out on the committee boats, I caught up with Giancarlo for his intentions of the day.
Our plan is to go afloat as soon as possible because we have already 10, 12 knots coming from north today. The wind is blowing more than the forecasts are previewing, so we are happy and we try to sail 2 races in order to go on with our program.
And what are we looking at? Because right now, looking at your race committee flag, it's northerly.
Yeah, now we have very different conditions from the other days because we have this northerly wind that it seems it will be with us also for tomorrow morning and maybe for tomorrow all the day. So we have very different conditions, different technician options, and so maybe today the 1 or 2 races that we are going to sail will be very different, and so we hope also with different competitors, different team leader.
Okay, so effectively it's switched around. You know, the top mark will be near the club and the bottom mark down the lake a bit.
Yeah, we have to set the starting line near Navene, that is close to Malcesine, and we are going to sail the first run near Torbole. So we change our sailing area and we are going to sail near to the yacht club.
Okay, and can you give me an idea of what is your plan tomorrow? Because we go into the final day, the Super Sunday. Are you still going to try and run the final qualifying race?
If we finish the program for today, tomorrow we have 1 or 2 races to sail to end the qualifying series, and after we can start around 1 with the quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals. We are very excited about this new format of race with a few boats competing, and so we are looking for the person, for the sailors that will sail together with us.
And final question, just clearly the starts are difficult because they're so competitive. They have to get a good start to get up to the top mark first. How hard is it for you, the race officer, to spot these guys?
Yesterday we have a very nervous start. There was 2 different problems. One, the main one was the wind that was not so good on the entire racing area. So we had the left-hand wind coming from the mountain, and so a lot of competitors choose that side to start. We catch over the line 7 boats at a good start, but after when we came back Sure, I meet some of them, and they were sure that they were out, so they not complying about our decision. But it was very, very hard to understand the boat and his position because they were very nervous.
Okay, thank you, Giancarlo, and good luck today. We'll enjoy the racing.
We hope so. And we hope that not have so much rain.
Well, here we are in the Fraglia Riva Yacht Club with, I've got Maurice O'Connell here, who's been talking. Prof, you've been chattering away over the past few days. We're in a slight delay pattern out on the start line. They're shifting around, but it's a very different prospect of racing, as Giancarlo, the race officer, was talking about.
Absolutely, Digby. It'll be really, really interesting today now because the wind is blowing from the north, which is a total switch for the last 3 days of sailing. So I would expect that we will see a much different style of racing today. Breeze is actually quite strong, about 14 to 16 knots wind, so more similar to Wednesday's and Thursday's wind strength, but a completely different wind direction. So it'll be really interesting tactically to see what this brings.
Okay. And if you've been watching over the last couple of days, slight change in our studio, which is really nice.
Blue lights.
Great blue lights. We're enjoying that. These are the live shots from the water. Let's just have a look at the schedule for racing during the week. We're into Friday, day 4. Sorry, we're Saturday, day 4 of the championship, the penultimate day. And he is intending to run 1, maybe 2 races to get the 10 qualifying races through. They may finish that qualifying round where all the boats race on the water. And then it goes through to the SSL Twist, where the top 10 survive into the quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals. Whoever is top of the leaderboard after the round-robin qualifying rounds will get a jump to the final. Whoever is second, the second qualifier, gets a jump to the semis. So that is the prospect tomorrow, God willing, inshallah, as they say, with the winds. And today we have a very different scenario with the winds. We've had the southerly wind over the past few days. Today it is a northerly Pelair. So now let's have a look at yesterday. It was an interesting race, number 6, all about the start. Let's check it out.
More start line drama kept sailors and viewers on the edge of their seats during race 6 of the Star Europeans and first ever SSL Breeze Grand Slam on Lake Garda. With a disqualification in place for anyone over the line early, 7 boats were flagged by the race committee, including overall leaders Robert Scheid and Henry Björning, Eric Doyle and Payson Infeliz, and George Szabo and Guy Avalon, who were clearly not happy to be flicked. The different course and lighter wind saw new faces at the front of the fleet, with Florian Rauderschel and Michael Fischer from Austria at the front of the pack. On the second lap, the Austrian duo overstood the ley line to give the lead to the tactical genius of Mateusz Kuznetovic and Federico Mello, who won race 6.
We won.
A real sense of relief. It was a stressful race.
Oh, it was, especially on the beginning, because we started on the comedy boat, and I don't know if you watched, but it was so, Pin was so favorite. On the beginning, I think I remember that I said to Federico, don't look up, don't look up. And on the top mark, we were already 10th or something like this, and then we worked out our way. Very nice race.
This pulls the duo into second overall behind Scheid and Björning. The championship now turns into survival of the top 10 tomorrow in the final stages of the qualifying for the quarters, semis and finals on Super Sunday. And the likes of Merkelbach and Coy in 11th are in the danger zone.
Yeah, I mean, when we've been looking at the table before the regatta and knew, of course, which great guys are here and we're competing against, we had the big goal to be in the top 10. But we knew it's going to be difficult, so of course the top 10 cut would be the ultimate cut for us, yeah.
With the European title, SSL Grand Slam plus $100,000 prize money at stake, there's still plenty to play for. Well, Prof, prize money is unusual in a European championship in sailing.
Very, very unusual, Digby. Lucky sailors, that's all I can say. Yeah, most championships and events all around the world are essentially, you know, you race for the glory of it, but you certainly don't race for cash. So there's cash available in the World Match Racing Tour and a very few other events. So it's a fantastic opportunity to have this prize money available for the top guys.
100,000 US dollars, it will be divided up into the top 20 between those guys, and the winner, just for your information, I'm sure you'd love to know, is takes a cheque for 20,000 US dollars.
Yeah.
That's quite a good week's work.
It is certainly a fantastic week's work, but there's a lot of work to do because because you're doing well in the qualification series, it all goes back to ground zero.
It does.
And we start again when you get through to the quarters, and all the points go.
Got to make that top 10 club, I think, is the mission of the day. Well, let's have a look at the leaderboard and see who is in contention at the top and who is in the risky zone around 10th, 11th and 12th. Robert Scheidt, Henry Björning, a clear lead, 2 points ahead of Mateusz Kuznedovic and Federico Melo, who had their first. Diego Negri, Fritjof Clean in third with 27 points. And then we have the Americans, Doyle and Infeliz, with the Swedish-American duo, Loof and Fatih, Freddie Loof, Brian Fatih. Brian is racing again with that back injury. He had a boat smash into him, and he's been suffering these past few days. Paul Cayard, Arthur Lopez, the US superstar, with Brazilian crewman Arthur Lopez in 6th on 41 points. And then we have an Italian duo, Benematti and Ambrosini, safely in that 7th spot. And then we are into slight danger zone. Rohart Ponceau, the French duo, on 48 points. Ivan Meleby, Josh Rebkind, both of those first in the SSL rankings of skipper and crew. And then Santoni, a local sailor from Torboli, with Sergio Lambertenghi. These two won the European Championships some 30 years ago, Prof, you know.
Absolutely.
And they're back together. The band's back together. And then in 11th, in the grey zone now, Dr. Hubert Merkelbach and Marcus Coy. Then our Croatians, Mizura and Barac, Lars Grail, Pedro Trush. And then your buddies, the Leary brothers from Ireland, Alert van der Heugen, Hornos More, Diaz, Prada, and so on. So today, Prof, in race number 7, we're going to be looking at whoever's winning the race overall, but we're also going to be looking into that danger zone because it is survival of the top 10.
Yeah, I think people are going to be really homing in now on the points, Digby. It's just all about now trying to, if you're in the top 10, you really just want to stay there. And if you're one of those guys who are one of those teams just on the cusp, you're just trying to put together a really good series of scores now for the rest of the qualification series to try and jump into that top 10. And once you get in there, remember, anything can happen. So it's just about trying to get into the top 10. That's what it's all about.
All right. But whoever's at the top, like Robert Scheidt, Henry Björning, they're going to be fighting hard to get that bye into the final because they'll, you know, then they will guarantee themselves a good chunk of that 100,000 US dollar.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's hard to bet against the caliber and the awesome skill and experience of Robert Scheidt and his crew, Henry Björning. I mean, they are looking very, very strong. But, you know, they were disqualified yesterday under the U flag for breaking the start line too early. You know, if they have a bad one again today, well, then they'll have to counter. So, you know, it'll be really interesting now today on the start to see who is going to play it more conservatively and then who is going to really push it. And in the interview, the race officer described a lot of the fleet as very nervous. And I suppose loosely translated, you know, the fleet are very, very eager and competitive at the start line. And unfortunately, yesterday, some got flicked.
Well, the start's crucial. We are a few minutes away from the start. They've had a slight postponement, so stay with us because just before the boats went out onto the water, Shirley Robertson, our on-water commentator, double gold medalist, went along the docksides to get a feeling for how the sailors were after four very hard days of racing.
You look a bit tired.
Yeah, it's a tough week. Especially physical. It's long races. You have to hike hard, and and also to think a lot, because it's not really the classic system around, and you have always to take out what you think and do what you really see. So it's a bit difficult.
It feels, you know, with 90 boats, there's a lot of risk. I mean, one little mistake, you could be out of that top 10.
Exactly, especially during the starts. They are very critical, and there is lots of problems around, and lots of contacts, and that's sometimes make you going backwards, and that's very, very difficult to come back.
We see you've got your lunch with you. You know, bananas are unlucky on a boat. Yeah. It's your choice.
Yeah, French is okay with all those things, and so no worries.
Good luck. We'll see you later. Well, it's not long to go now, about 20 minutes before all the boats will leave, and we're just gonna see who else is here. Brian. We've been talking in the commentary all week about your back injury. You just turn around a little so we can see you. Just update us. How are you feeling today?
Today's finally getting a little bit better. So it was a struggle yesterday, and I'm glad to see some improvement. So, yeah.
It's a big day today, isn't it? I mean, essentially, it's the last day before the finals. You know, what's important today?
Just stay, try and get smooth and consistent, and just, work as hard as we can. So that's where we're at.
All right, we look forward to watching. Yeah.
Thank you.
Matthias. Oh, really?
Yeah.
You've got Xavier here.
He was first in the queue. I mean, yesterday, what a victory that was. It was impressive in really difficult conditions.
Right. Actually, I didn't expect that on the SSL Breeze Grand Slam we're going to sail in a light wind race. But actually, this is the beauty of the sailing. You sail different conditions, different courses, different situations, and we managed to play a really good race. Happy about it. This was the 6th race out of 10 of the qualification. So it's still 4 races in front of us. Everything can happen. Keep my mind focused, sharp, and looking forward for today. I lived in the past what happened yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. We really focus on today.
It looks tricky today. I mean, even the race officer is not entirely sure what might happen.
Right. Actually, this is my 4th regatta in my life when I sail in Garda. And every time I sailed here, it was a south wind. So this is going to probably be the first race in my life over here, sailing on the north wind, which I feel I'm a little bit different handicap than the other guys who are sailing here for many years, and they know how to do it. But we will have eyes open, focus on the racing and looking what the other people are doing.
All right, good luck. We'll see you later.
Well, Mateusz Kuznetovic with a very different wind scenario there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say he's not alone in that most sailors are used to sailing in Garda in the south wind, which usually comes in round about lunchtime. And probably not that many sailors have sailed in the northerly wind, the Pelair. And when you haven't sailed in that northerly wind, the Pelair, you won't be exactly sure which side of the upwind is going to pay and what strategy is going to work for you.
Well, that is the live shot of Gianluca, I think, the race officer. Yep, indeed. He's checking out. He's setting the course. So your information is as up-to-date as ours. We're within minutes of the sequence. Let's see the course and fly out geographically using Virtual Eye. We're flying from south to north along the lake, which narrows as it gets to the north, with Riva on the left-hand side and Torboli top right, those 2 little towns. And we're in a 4-lap scenario. But the big difference, Prof, big difference is from the last 3 days is that it's a complete 180-degree switch, and I think that is going to make a huge difference to the tactics.
Looking at the Virtual Eye here as well, Digby, Unsurprisingly, the race officer has set a significant port end bias once again, just to try and spread the fleet across the line, but the breeze is blowing more or less straight down the axis of the lake. The information is that the wind direction and the course is set to 015 degrees, so 15 degrees to the right of true north, and the course is bang in the centre of the lake, so it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Now, we're talking about the winds, and Lake Garda is famous as being a wind generator. And I wanted to get an insight into how they call these winds the Aura and the Pele and all this kind of stuff. And in fact, we caught up with the local laser coach, Fabio Zaini, when the wind was blowing from the north. So here's a little insight into the Lake Garda breeze from the north. Fabio Zaini, you're the local coach here, laser coach, and if anybody can explain the fabulous wind generator of Lake Garda, it's you, Fabio. So describe, what do we have now? We're 5 p.m. What kind of wind do we have?
Yeah, today is a little bit strange because we have this north wind. We have still this north wind also in the afternoon because as you can see, the weather is not so good, it's not so sunny, but anyway, you can sail. This north wind is a mix of two winds in general. We have this wind coming from that valley, which is Balino Valley, and otherwise we have the wind coming from the river valley, from Sarka Valley, and then on the lake you have the mix of those two winds, and this is the famous Peler.
Now, what is the Aura? I've heard about this Aura.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yes, the Aura wind is the typical thermical wind. In the typical sunny day, it will start from 12 and it will blow till 7 in the afternoon, 8.
So the Aura would be coming up the lake and funneling in.
So when all these rocks get warm, this wind will start. And then also helps a lot this valley, the river valley, the Sarka Valley, because it's very flat and the wind can accelerate, and also this on north of Garda Lake, it's very, very small, and also the wind have a push.
Yeah, a compression,
yes.
Almost, a funneling compression. Is it Venturi?
Venturi.
Hey!
Yes, also in Italian. Effetto Venturi.
Of course, an Italian word. Yeah,
Yes.
Okay,
So
you prefer racing with the Pele. Explain why.
yeah, I like to race and to train with this north wind because you have to play with this big shift and also with big gust, as you can see the star coming in. So it's a little bit tricky, and you have to play. I like to play with the winds and with this condition.
Oh, Fabio, thank you so much. That's a good insight. You are now our wind guru.
Yeah, thanks. I hope.
Well, Fabio Zaini there with a great insight, Prof, into what we have today.
I'd say we could have sold that interview to the sailors this morning, Digby. It was really, really good information and a fantastic insight from the local laser coach. So, yeah, the northerly wind, it's going to be really, really interesting strategically how that's going to play out. And, yeah, time will tell. And as I said, I don't think very many sailors will have sailed in that northerly, so perhaps we'll see an advantage to some of the local Italian sailors. And, you know, maybe they might know something that we don't.
And if you've been watching over the past couple of days, you will have seen everybody bang right. But today is going to be a very different scenario. It's going to be much more shifty. Out there we have Supremo sailor Shirley Robertson. Shirley, whereabouts are you on the racetrack?
Digby, we are right beside the committee boat, and yeah, Lake Garda is full of surprises this week, isn't it? Every day is a little bit different, and today looks fabulous. We didn't expect this amount of wind. We've currently got 16 to 18 knots. It's grey skies. There's a blanket of clouds all over the mountains, and I think if the clouds stay, then this wind will stay. The only risk of it disappearing really is if it starts to get sunny. So perfect day for star sailing. Really special. What can I add to the information? Well, the whole course is sort of positioned to the left-hand side, so we're actually very close to the mountains on the left, and I think that could well affect the choices that the sailors have. I think the reason for that is it's so deep. It's 300 meters deep, and the race committee already had some marks set. They keep them in overnight, so they're not having to redo that every day. And I think that's the reason why we're so far left. But they will very quickly get to the mountains on the left-hand side, and I guess it's a decision whether you tack up that side or you try and get back into the middle of the lake. But the options that we spoke about on the right-hand side, I'm not entirely sure that they're going to get there. And we've seen the top sailors have a little go at both, so they're unsure what side will pay. But it's very spectacular. 90 stars with the backdrop of that incredible mountain. It's pretty special, Digby.
Thanks, Shirley. Well, we're about 9 minutes to go, Prof, to the race start.
3 minutes to the warning, 3 minutes to the warning, to the APL move on.
And we're hearing the radio comms direct from the committee boat. 3 minutes to the warning. One of the best downwind sailors here who lives on Lake Garda is Robert Scheidt, who's top of the leaderboard with Henry Björning, and he's the 5-time medalist and fourth at the Rio Games, and now he's going back into the laser, and he's one of the most well-respected sailors in the world, and one of the best players on this racetrack. I managed to catch up with him just before racing to talk about his next Olympic campaign.
I decided at the beginning of 2019 that I would try to have a comeback in the laser, which is not so easy. It's a big ask, and physically it's quite demanding. But I think I did the right choice, and I'm slowly improving. I did 2 regattas so far, and I've been getting better and better. I feel better on the boat. People are joking that at this stage of your career, the physio is more important than the coach, and I kind of agree with that too. But so far it's been working well. My body has been responding. The first few weeks of laser sailing were quite hard on my body, but slowly muscle memory is coming back, and I feel better on the boat. It's kind of a short campaign now. There's not a lot of time left, and I still have to make the trials. So that's going to be important. This year we have 2 possibilities, either the Worlds or the test event. So those 2 will count for the Olympic spot. And well, hopefully I can do it, can qualify, so then I can focus only on the games.
You are one of the most fiery competitors in sailing, and it's amazing that the fire is still there, it's still burning.
Yeah, the fire is still burning. I love to compete, and I love to have a goal ahead of me. I think it's something that I missed when I stopped campaigning. To have your project, your goal, and wake up in the morning and you know what you have to do to reach that. So that's good. And as long as my body is allowing me to do this and my family is allowing me to do this, I'll keep going. For sure, this is my last try because with all these changes that the World Sailing is doing, it's very little chance of an older guy to campaign these days. But I feel that if I do the right things, I can put myself in a good position for Tokyo.
And final question, just on this lovely Europeans here in the first ever SSL Breeze Grand Slam. Your thoughts on the location and the venue?
Well, the location is amazing. I'm suspicious because I'm based here in Lake Garda. Riva is a great club. This is a very traditional club. I think one of the oldest and most traditional sailing clubs in Italy, and it has hosted many great regattas, and this week will be the same. And joining forces, Star Class, SSL, and Riva, Radavella Riva together, we'll have a great championship for sure. And hopefully the weather will be good, and I think it will. And we'll have more than 90 boats on the water with a great final day expected. Many big names of sailing here, many VIPs, and but also weekend sailors, because that's also what makes the class so strong. So there's people from all over the world here, and really excited to start on Wednesday.
And they've been incredibly kind by quietening down for this interview and having a little listen in. I love this whole scenario, the club scenario, the bar. It's just normal sailing.
Well, it's great. A lot of the chat goes on in the club bar. A lot of the tuning and a lot of the wind knowledge. So this is a great club, and it's very friendly, great food, and everybody loves to come here.
Well, there's a lovely ambiance for that interview. Everyone quietened down for us. And, that is the little bar. That's all they've got. And you have your little cappuccinos, and then they come in the afternoons. And it's fantastic. So, Prof, you had a very quick chat with Robert this morning. What was he saying?
Just briefly on the dock. I was actually looking at his boat from a technical point of view. And his boat has got a traveller, and it's got some tracks on the deck, which are really, really unusual. And I only saw them on one other boat, which was Xavier Rohart's boat. But Robert, the classic small boat sailor, doesn't use either of them. He just likes to keep it simple, and it just shows that maybe he's a laser sailor at heart, where he just likes to keep things simple and let other things do the talking on the racecourse.
Well, we're going to see Robert in action in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, we're here in Lake Garda, Riva del Garda, a stunning and beautiful spot. Let's just take a quick moment to enjoy the beauty of the region. Well, we're under 2 minutes to the start of race number 7. Prof, it is looking really, really tasty.
Yeah, and it's looking heavily favoured to the port end, Digby. There's fresh air up the committee boat, and there is a pile of boats down the pin. So once again, we're looking at a lot of the sailors trying to start on the port end, and we'll see who gets out of there alive.
On board with Diego Negri, the skipper, the Italian skipper, and Fritjof Clean from Germany.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That was Giancarlo, the principal race officer. We're in tune with under a minute to go. Quick comment from Shirley. On board with Robert Scheidt. Okay, 30 seconds to go to the start of race number 7. A fairly even line. Prof, it looks like the pin end is that's where everybody wants to be right now.
Absolutely. Big line sag in the middle section of the fleet, probably 3 or 4 lengths back from the line, but a big crush down the pin, and it's all just about holding her position with under very, very slow speed, which is really tricky. Looks like boats are very close to be at the pin. Very, very close. They look a little over at the pin, to be honest. Very interesting to see if he'll fly the X flag or not. Perhaps he won't.
Well, Shirley, we saw a few boats that looked over the line on the pin end. What can you tell us?
Oh, Digby, we were slightly behind the line. I mean, I had the same view as you. It looked close, or a few boats over at that pin. But we're right beside the committee boat, and they're not flying any flags, and there's no action. So I guess clean start.
Well, bow 90, the Germans Manuel Voigt and Michael Schultz out with a super start. And we're looking at Fabian McGowan and Juan Pablo Pacosi from Argentina. And they're off to a nice start in the middle of the line. And they've headed out onto port tack. Quite a few on port prop, while the guys left of the racetrack heading out on starboard.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to favour the left on balance, as Shirley said. Digby, left-hand side of the course looks a little bit closer to the cliffs, and it looks like a lot of the top players have started over there. There's a few boats after braking to the right, but big advantage to the port end of the line, and I suspect that's, you know, there's two reasons. There's people looking to start down there, but also they're looking to work the left-hand side of the beach. So it'll be interesting to see. They're going to get to the cliffs pretty quickly, to be honest with you. I'd say they'll be looking at tacking in the next 3 or 4 minutes, and that'll be really interesting to see then what plays out in the first cross. But it's tough conditions. It kind of reminds me of Wednesday and Thursday. You know, we had hard hiking, long upwinds on Wednesday and Thursday, very tough on the body, and I think we'll have some tired sailors in the dock again tonight. They'll have had a bit of a physical respite yesterday in the light winds, but you can see tops of the waves just looking a little bit white, which indicates that there's, you know, 15, 16, the occasional puff of 17 knots coming from the north. So really tough sailing, and you know, it'll put a premium on your fitness and your straight line boat speed as you work your way to the left hand side.
I think that is Diego Negri and Fritjof clean. They came into today third overall, just a few points behind Mateusz Kuzniewicz and ahead of Eric Doyle, Payson, Infeliz, and these guys will be fighting hard to win this qualifying series.
You can see the guys here, hands over the head, trying to exert maximum righting moment to keep the boat as flat as possible and for the boat to go as fast as possible. So cruise, hands over the head, actually does make a difference to the speed of the boat, but it's really hard work to keep yourself in that position for very long. The strain on your core and on your quads is pretty massive. So it looks like tough going out there.
Well, Lars Nordling and Bernhard Rost from Sweden in the mix in the middle of the pack, working their way up towards the left-hand side, flying over the top now. But if we look at Virtual Eye, will give us some geography as to where the fleet is, and really we're seeing the majority of the fleet heading to the left, which is a completely new scenario, Prop.
Well, indeed. I mean, you know, it's right-hand track favoured in the southerly breeze. Looks like left-hand track favoured on the northerly breeze, and we've already seen a big advantage on the Virtual Eye to the left. So if our Virtual Eye information is correct, some of the players leading the bunch out to the left are double Olympic medalist Freddie Loof and Xavier Rohart, and Ponzo looking left as well with Diego Negri. So that's just the initial information as to who we have working to the left. So it's strongly favoured right now. You know, you can see the young laser radial sailor Gallinaro from Italy. This is his first star event, and he's heading to the right, but it looks as if he's already dropped off compared to the guys on the left. So it's going to be a strong left-hand track right now, and they'll be coming out of there on port tack pretty soon. So strong winds here again, bow number 37. A little bit of damage to their jib, as you can see. They obviously must have done a little bit of a repair overnight. And we've got the umpires in the background in the powerboat, and just keeping an eye on everybody to ensure that there are no illegal actions or infringements.
And this is where Eckbald are geographically quite far back, one of the back markers, and they are one of the 4 boats heading to the right-hand side of the racetrack. Our camera boats having to stay clear of this broad fleet, so hence we're looking at Eckbald and Rabeck at the moment. And I wonder if we could check back in with Shirley out there on the racetrack. Shirley, first up, tell us whereabouts you are on the course.
Well, Digby, we are on the right-hand side of the course. There's no room for us on the left. They're so close in. And I've been quite surprised, actually, that the leaders have taken a little bite out, but they've gone back in for more. And, they obviously see something there. I think the water's flatter as well. And in the Star, that makes quite a big difference. But they obviously think there's a massive gain over there. Two-thirds of the fleet are clinging to that cliffside, and I guess we'll see as the beat progresses.
Race committee speaking, the line is set. The line is set. Orange flag in 4 minutes.
I'm not sure what that was, Prof.
It must be some replay because it referred to the orange flag, and the orange flag is flown 10 minutes before the start. So, not relevant to the race right now. And
look at the Argentinian crew, McGowan and Percossi.
Yeah, the action is over here on the left-hand side for sure. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see who comes out of here ahead. Don't quite have any information as to where the regatta leader is, Robert Scheidt and Henry Bjonig. That would be really interesting as where Mateusz Krishnerovic and Federico Melo are. So, it'd be really, really interesting to see who comes out of that left-hand side. But it's a big, big advantage, as you can see. The line across the front of the fleet is just showing us that the left is very, very strong. And
well, interesting, Negri and Clean in the middle of the racetrack of that left-hand bunch. They are the furthest right, furthest in the middle. Now they're making their way across to try and attack the ley line up towards the top mark. And we'll see how that pays off for the Italian-German duo, who had been having such a great regatta with their third overall on the standings, and we're on board with them. Fritjof Clean is the SSL sports director, racing with Diego Negri, one of the best Italian sailors. And these two, an absolute class act. They won the first race of the regatta on day one, and then in that second race they were over the line and getting greedy, as Fritjof said as he came into the studio. And then on the next race, in race number 3, they won that as well. So they have speed, Prof.
Yeah, and our virtual live information here, Digby, we're seeing a return to form in this race as Paul Caird and Arthur Lopez look to me to be the initial leaders of this bunch working the left. Caird did take a hitch on port, but is back on starboard now into the cliffs, and he's looking strong. Xavier Rohart and Ponso are hipped up to windward of him, also looking strong, as is Dr. Merkelbach and Marcus Coy, and they'll be really, really pleased with the initial part of this upwind leg, because they are trying to get back into the top 10. And Robert Scheidt, not surprisingly, probably a little bit more of a conservative start, but again, looks to me as if Scheidt and Bjonig are probably in the top 5 or top 6 right now. Right now, I'd say if Caird tacked, he would probably cross ahead, and looks to me as if he's the initial leader coming out of that left-hand side. And that would be a relief for him, because by his own high standards, the last 3 races from him weren't particularly flash. So, but we've seen that he's very, very fast upwind in the breeze, and he's really showing it now.
Okay, well, we're looking at some of the back markers.
Well, Fabian McGowan here needs to stick his ankles under the hiking straps and start hiking a little harder. He's looking around a little bit, but just, more hiking required here for sure.
Well, talk about hiking. I think we're back with the Diego Negri and Fritjof Clean. And these guys, again, still right slap bang in the middle of the racetrack. And they're covering their options. They're covering the right-hand side, the guys on the right and the guys on the left. So really good tactical racing by Negri and Clean. We'll see how they pan out. as they approach the top mark.
Yeah, they're in the middle though, Digby, and that's not good. You know, they're already sliding down the wall by their fingernails, and the left is just looking so strong. So I'd say every metre that you get to the right of that left-hand bunch is not good. Fine shot here of the young Italian laser radial sailor. Unfortunately for him, heading right, he'll get a big body weight disadvantage here. You need to be at the 200 kilos combined crew weight, and these two young guys are just unfortunately nowhere near big enough to sail these boats upwind at maximum speed. So it's not surprising that they got forced off to the right, but you know, it's a baptism of fire for them for sure.
Well, Guido Gallinardo, who is the laser radial youth and world champ, sailing with Kilian Weiser. They're 22nd overall into today, Prof. So, I mean, there is an outside chance if we have 3 more qualifying races that they could do it. But right now they're banging super right on the racetrack, and we'll see how that pays off for them in just a moment towards the top mark.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, Digby, they've got clear air, and I mean, they're kind of forced to do that, to be honest with you. So it'll be a tough, long sail back from them. Surprised, to be honest with you, that Diego Negri and Fritzof Kling are working this right-hand side. I thought that they would just try and get back to the left as quickly as they can so that they don't come adrift. So I'm surprised now, because we've seen Diego position the boat tactically absolutely superbly when the strong southerlies were in on Wednesday and Thursday. So it is surprising to see them this side, unless they know something that we don't. But it's just the left is looking so strong right now.
Well, I believe we're back on board with Negri and Clean. Let's just have a quick look at Virtual Eye, and we'll see whereabouts. It's Robert Scheidt, I beg your pardon, with Henry Björning.
If you want to know about hiking, that's Robert Scheidt's toes up on the air with his entire body weight slung over the side of the boat in true laser sailor style. And who do we have here? Christian Pausch, and they're heading to the left, and here we have Robert Scheidt and Henry Björning working back into the middle. But as you can see, Paul Caird and Arthur Lopez looking very, very strong, setting themselves up to winner of the fleet now, and it'll be a drag race now for them, because they're probably pretty close to ley line, and they'll just be looking to just go perhaps a little fast forward to make sure that they're over the top of the fleet and leading into this mark from the left-hand side.
Love that silver paint job on Nordling and Rost's boats, the Swedes.
Magnificent, absolutely magnificent. The vinyl wrap around the star that they've done here just looks very, very spectacular.
Okay, well, we're getting a great close-up view of the sailing, and these guys winning the style points today, Prof.
Absolutely, absolutely. The crew has just jumped up there out of the hiking position, and we're back now on board with Robert Scheidt, and he's just looking to probably work back towards the left a little bit. Maybe he took a little bit of a right-hander and wants to come back onto starboard and come back up towards the top left-hand side of the course. It'll be interesting to see where Caird is. On our previous shot of him, he looked really, really strong, and for sure the top players are starting to filter out towards the top of the fleet now. We're seeing 1991 Eric Doyle leading, and it's looking interesting on the left-hand side.
Well, Robert Scheidt in the mix, threading his way up through the fleet in the middle of the racetrack. As we pull wide using Virtual Eye, you can see the top mark and the cone, and with Virtual Eye we can see Negri and Clean towards the right-hand side of the racetrack, and the leaders, the whole bunch on the left, are taking the lead line with Doyle and then Feliz in the winning spot at the moment. So in terms of the overall race, Doyle and Infeliz looking really good on the left-hand side as the boats start to weave their way into the middle of the pack. Rohard and Ponceau will be banging the port ley line coming in towards the top mark. Doyle and Infeliz a little bit more conservative, well inside the cone. And they have Benamati and Ambrosini also in the mix there. Now we've got some shots of Doyle, Infeliz. We think mathematically they're near the top, coming in towards the and they're doing a tack prop, coming back out.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see the sort of middle left now play through a little bit more than the hard left. And Eric has just tacked on the starboard and is coming from the middle right, heading back over to the left a little bit. So a few wind shifts here are happening, and it might mean that the guys in the hard left are gotten unstuck.
Okay, Shirley Robertson out on the racetrack. Let's check in with you, Shirley.
Well, Digby, we are right by the leaders. And how many tacks have they done up that left-hand shore? It's phenomenal and so close in. I mean, you could hand them a chocolate bar if you were standing there watching. They are so close. To me, Kayard has done so well out that left-hand side and just managed to get a little bit of distance on everyone behind. They're approaching the ley line now, and I can see Kayard is on port heading towards the mark, and that may well be his final tack. It looks to me like he's left that left-hand shore, but done really well. I spoke to him this morning. I mean, terribly disappointed by the way he has been sailing the last couple of days, and really keen to rectify that today. But what a beat this has been. So much manoeuvring, so many tacks.
Thanks, Shirley. Well, now it's getting crunchy, Prof. Just towards the top mark. It's still Doyle and Infeliz with Rohart, Ponceau in that mix, and they'll be working the port ley line into the top mark. Negri and Clean, bottom of our screen, they banged the right-hand side, and now they're coming back in to engage with Kuznirovic, Mello, Benamati, Ambrosini, Merkelbach, Foy, Scheid and Björning. Robert Scheid, Henry Björning in there in that mix, as are the Croatians Misura and Barak. This is as close as it gets, Prof.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic upwind leg, Digby. It's so hard to call right now. You know, Eric Doyle is looking strong, coming out of the middle left. Can't quite see where Kayard is right now. We got Robert Scheid right behind as we have Kuznirovic and Xavier Rohart, all of them former world champions. So it's really, really difficult to call. Lots of tacking, you know, taking advantage of small wind shifts, and it's a real game of chess out there now to see who will actually just draw ahead in the final 10 or 15% of this upwind leg.
Well, Guido Gallinaro, the youngster, 18 years old, laser radial youth European champ. He cleaned up last year in the laser radial, so a real prospect for Italy in the Italian laser class. And there he is, the youngster. Real energy around the racetrack, a lovely kid, just so thrilled and delighted to be here, mixing it up with the likes of Robert Scheid and Henry Björning. And these guys, Robert Scheid, such a great competitor. I would say, Prof, that at the top of the leaderboard, Robert Scheid just is going full bore to get that leapfrog, that by winning the qualifying series into the final, where just 4 boats will be racing tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that would be his intention, absolutely. He started relatively conservatively in that race, as he would do following his UFAG disqualification yesterday. But, you know, he's so fast and so competitive that I would say that he's wriggled his way up into the top 4 or 5. So, you know, you can never bet against Robert Scheid. He's an incredibly competitive sailor, and is coming out of here on port tack now, probably slightly under port ley, which is a lovely position to be in, and we'll see where he is with respect to the other guys who are further left.
Well, here's the geography. Using virtual eye, you can see Kayard and Lopez have the mathematical lead, the shortest distance towards the top mark. And let's see who else is in the mix. It's probably better to flick back to virtual eye, and then we can see who is coming in on which ley line.
I think it's between
Benamati, Ambrosini about to tack over.
between the two.
Merkelbach and Coy. Doyle Infelice on the port hand ley line. Interested to see Melleby and Redkin a little bit back with Zobar. But Merkelbach and Coy beginning to come in on starboard. Prof and Benamati, Ambrosini about to engage with Kayard and Lopez. We'll see some exciting two-boat crossing action here just under the cone.
Yeah, looks like Benamati, 1991 world champion, is taking a nice little right-hander in from the centre, and it'll be a marginal cross here with Kayard. Not really sure who's going to be ahead.
Benamati having
correct. Then Benamati is ahead, and it probably looks like Scheidt and Bonig perhaps third, and Doyle in Infelice in fourth, but very, very tight.
Okay, now we're seeing the shot from the top mark, and that was Doyle just squeezing in inside Robert Benamati and Albert Ambrosini. Wow, Shirley, this is as tight as it gets.
It was so close, and I guess by hanging on slightly longer on the left-hand side, they did so well. They all did so well to come back into the game, but it is so tight here at the top mark, I think.
Okay, while the leader's going around the top, they'll be doing a little short dog leg to the spreader mark.
Yeah, what will be interesting here now is what the tactical strategy will be when they go around the offset mark. You would expect if there's left shifted breeze with stronger pressure on the left, that they probably won't jibe at the offset mark if there's more pressure on the left. So you'd probably see them just doing a bare way at the offset and then start to lay down to the gate and setting themselves up for a bit of a long starboard on the way down. That's what I would expect anyway, looking at the way that upwind leg is played out.
Well, Robert Scheidt, Henry Björning, Henry the big crewman, getting set for the downwind run. There we're seeing them do their bear away. A lot of work for the crew at this stage, Rob.
There's so much action here at the bearway, because there's about 10 different controls in the Star that you've got to release to set the boat up for downwind leg. There's course runner, there is getting the course jib handed up, there's getting the jib handing off, releasing the outhaul, getting the pole on, getting the body weight into the correct position. So there's a huge amount of technical changes you've got to make to the rig when you go from upwind to downwind in the Star. But initially we're starting to see the leaders stand on and starboard jibe for the long starboard jibe exit from the offset mark.
Scheidt and Björning in that mix near the front of the pack, now in fourth position. Fantastic upwind sailing by the brilliant Brazilian Robert Scheidt, five-time medalist, and Doyle Infelice squeezing in under that top mark and heading down. There's Lars Grail. He's apparently, so he says, he's racing in his last big international championship. Never say never.
Well, yeah, he's pretty clear that he's not saying goodbye to the Star class, but he's probably just going to do a few local events. And at the event last night, where he was presented with an award to mark his contribution to the class, he said that he was perhaps going to do some more classic starboard sailing in some of the older wooden boats. But he's had a glittering career in the class and has won the World Championships himself.
Well, still action going on around that top mark as the bottom half of the fleet fight their way through some of the dirty air, and they're scrapping away amongst each other, and the racing is looking really tasty for the entire over 90 boats on this racetrack for the Star European Championship and SSL Breeze Grand Slam. We are in race number 7. We've just done one lap of the track, and they have another lap to do. Meanwhile, back towards the front, Scheidt, Björning, Doyle, Infelice scrapping with Kayard and Lopez and Benamati and Ambrosini. Also in the mix are...
Yeah, we have what we're seeing now is the initial starboard tack jibe. The leaders are now jibed onto port, and it looks like they're just starting to set themselves up just above port lay to the gate, and obviously the decision will be which gate mark that they decide to go around as they get towards the bottom of this this run, but you'd expect them to be setting themselves up towards the right-hand gate mark. But that's not a decision for the next 5 minutes or so.
So now, Prof, we get a bit of geography as to where Negri and Clean are. They're working their way down left as we look down the racetrack, trying to fight out into some clean air on the left-hand side. Louf and Fatih, Kayod Lopez, Benamati, Ambrosini, they're kind of working a bit more of a righty on the way down the race course towards the gate. So a long way to go yet. They've just done a lap. We're in the first downwind, leg 2 of race number 7.
Yeah, it is interesting that all the fleet now are on port jibe, and I just wonder, has the breeze shifted to the right, which has made this jibe favoured. You would have thought that the long starboard initially would have been the way that it would have set up, so maybe we are looking at a right-hand shift, which has flicked everybody over onto port jibe.
Well, Negri and Clean, they've got Santoni and Lambertenghi behind them. And the Norwegian gold star, I think that is Melleby. Ivan Melleby with Josh Revkin right behind them, down number 10. So they're in a really good scrap with some of the top 10 runners and riders. A good battle going on between those guys. So a full-on race down towards the gate.
Yeah, we're about halfway down now, and we're seeing Benamati, Ambrosini and Kayod and Lopez looking strong. Obviously, the downwind legendary speed of Robert Scheidt will be in there as well. And but I think Eric Doyle has got the bit between his teeth here. He was very determined this morning when I was talking to him to start shooting in some good scores, and he's also no slouch, having won the Bacardi Cup pretty convincingly this year in Miami in March.
Well, Matthias Kuznirovic, Federico Mello, second into today, just 2 points behind Scheidt and Björning.
Yeah, we can see Mateus here looking under the boom, looking at the leaders, trying to position himself to blanket some of the boats behind with Benamati just to leeward of him here. Mateus himself, a former Finn gold and bronze medalist, very, very fast downwind sailor. You can see his crew, Federico Mello, back in the cockpit. So obviously he feels that the wind is strong enough that he wants to get the bow of the boat out of the water, where Benamati's crew is still at the mast. And you can see the bow of Benamati's boat just digging in now and again. So really important to figure out where you're going to place your body weight forwards and aft to make sure that the boat slips through the water as fast as you possibly can. So right now it's between, looks to me as if it's between Doyle and Feliz, Kayod Lopez, Scheidt and Brony probably third, and Benamati and Ambrosini are in the top 3 or 4 as well.
Well, Marcel Celan with Rosemary Celan from Holland. Nice to see some of the ladies out there on the racetrack. I mean, most of the crews are male, just because of the body weight, but there's nothing no restrictions.
We've got 3 young women sailing in the fleet, and I've met a few of them this morning, and it's tough going for them for sure, because it's a big, heavy boat and difficult to sail in these conditions, but they're really, really enjoying it, and it's absolutely fantastic.
And Ellie Gravad from Denmark also in that mix as we jump back on board with Robert Scheidt and Henry Björning.
You can see Robert here has got both main sheet tails in his hand, which gives him much more purchase and allows him to trim the main sheet in much more directly. And every single wave he'll adjust the main sheet to try and propel the boat down the breeze. Little pump once per wave, just trying to get the boat surfing in any way he can in these relatively small waves that we're seeing here on the lake. So bow number 81 here, crew weight pretty static, crew in the middle of the boat, and they look as if they're pretty relaxed going down the run here. And that's Jorgen Schooner, who retired out of one of the races after that Portac start where he fouled quite a few boats, and sporting decision by him. Very decorated sailor actually from Denmark, and knew that he had infringed a few ropes and did the right thing and retired out of that race. I can't remember which one it was, Digby. I think it could have been one of the races on the Thursday.
Now we're looking at bow number 6, Mateusz Kazimierowicz, Federico Mello, contenders for the top of the leaderboard in the qualifiers. They're battling away, really having a race with Robert Scheidt at the front, and here again they're showing their class downwind as we look through them to Benimati and Ambrosini.
You can see bow number 6, the bow just keeping out of the water here, so their body weight position is absolutely perfect fore and aft, and not digging the bow in, because as the breeze strengthens and the pressure on the rig, which is right forward over the bow, pushes the bow down, you got to move the body weight. You got to move the body weight aft.
Well, there's a little group heading through the middle of the race course, including Doug Smith and Brian O'Mahony from the USA.
It's big Brian, yeah, getting married next year in Tullamore in Ireland. This comes from an Irish-American family in the West Coast, and he's having a ball here this week, really enjoying sailing.
Okay, and Virtual can tell us where they are exactly on the racetrack in relation to everybody else.
It looks cold, Digby. Looking at Brian's headgear there, it looks really, really cold. That northerly wind undoubtedly is dropping the temperature a few degrees.
Well, Shirley Robertson on the water. Let's check in with Shirley for a quick update from you.
It's exciting at the front of the fleet, Digby. We are right beside Mirko Bak and Marcus Coy. Remember, they're in 11th position and desperately trying to make that top 10 for tomorrow, but it's really close. I think the course is not quite straight on the wind. They've come all the way down here on the same jibe and are obviously laying the gate. They're now about 200 meters from the gate, so it'll be interesting to see, you know, what choices they make, if they just go to that right-hand mark and head straight into the cliffs or not. But impressive performance on this downwind leg by the Italian duo. They've gained over everyone else. There's a good sort of 40 meters between them, and a lovely bit of safe space as they get ready to round this bottom mark.
It's just taking the pole off now, Shirley, so they must be closing in on the gate from what we can see on Virtual Eye. And Benimati, I think, is a 1992 Olympian, 91 world champion, and a colourful character at the top of the fleet.
Well, Virtual can take us anywhere on the racetrack from any angle, which is really great. So there, Benimati, Ambrosini through the gates and now heading up towards the left-hand side of the racetrack.
It's a big lead for them, and really tight bit of sailing.
How close is this? Dual drive there with the top 2 leaderboard contenders. Scheidt Björning on the left, bow number 3 in the red. The Polish-Portuguese duo of Kazimierowicz and Mello, and inside them, I couldn't quite see who that was, but this is really close racing now.
This must be a first for me, because I've seen a very rare mistake of Robert Scheidt, where he's rounded on the outside and in the bad air of Kazimierowicz and allowed another boat to hip up inside him as well. They must have just had a real battle coming down into the 3-length circle.
There's Marcus Coy, Hubert Merkel back. They're in 11th overall going into today, as Robert Scheidt now tacks onto the Germans, the Brazilians in their distinctive boat with their yellow caps. Robert Scheidt and Björning tacking onto the Germans.
He had to tack there because he was just sitting in the gas of Kazimierowicz. So as soon as the German team attacked, Scheidt had to tack as well, and now he's got his bow out into fresh air, and then he can get on with the next part of the upwind. And of course, Scheidt on starboard, heading left, which what we've seen is that's the favourite side of the course. I would expect that Kazimierowicz will tack pretty quickly, because I would not like to be heading right in this racetrack.
Well, we're in day 4 of the championship. Just throwing back to Shirley, I haven't seen such a close bottom gate rounding as this.
Yeah, it's really close. 90 boats, just all jam-packed together. It's full of action, Digby. I think, you know, all that tacking up the left-hand side, you know, it was really strategic, really tactical, and flatter water as well. It hasn't had the whole length of the lake to build up big waves, and it's kept everyone much closer together. It's a real battle. It's great to see.
Shirley Krishnerovich is standing on a port tack. Maybe he doesn't like the idea of going back through the dirty air of the fleet. But to my mind, from what happened on the first upwind leg, I'd be getting nervous now if I was Matthias.
Yes, and I think, Prof, the wind may well have gone a little bit further to the right-hand side. It's been going right as we've come out, and we saw them all lay down on the same jibe. So perhaps there's a little bit of that as well. But a brave move, I think, to head too far over to the right-hand side of this course.
Well, Prof and Shirley, we're hearing some shouts through your microphone, I think, of some drama around that bottom mark and the busy mark rounding. So now the majority have gone round, and now we're working our way upwind on leg number 3. And Prof, you're looking at bow numbers.
You're just looking at the comms here from the race committee. I'm not exactly sure how accurate this information is, because I don't recall having seen a U flag flying at that start. But if that information is correct, we're seeing bow number 5,
Torvald Mirsky.
Bow number 19, which is Alessandro Angelini. Bow number 30, which is Eric Dahlin, and somebody bow number 86 going home because they're damaged. So obviously we'll get some confirmation of that in a while.
Okay, but that's not going to affect our race leaders at the moment. But that was an update from the race committee. We're on their WhatsApp page, which is really great, Prof, to dial in with the race committee.
It's great comms.
And meanwhile, we're on board with Diego Negri and Fritjof Clean. You can see Diego.
Yeah,
could see him.
Upper runner in his right hand, and that's the key control for upwind. Here we have Krishnerovich now tacking onto starboard, so he's gone pretty, he's probably gone 50% of the way maybe out to the starboard lay, and it will be interesting to see, as Shirley says, if this is a right-hander, if it continues to go right, will that make it look good, or will it cave in towards the left?
Just
see the left-handers come
look
out.
how hard Mateusz Krishnerovich is working there with Federico Melo. This is a great shot, Prof.
You've
just
no
how
idea
physical this
how
is.
tough that is. I mean, just looking at that now, they might look as if they're relaxed, but your quads are absolutely burning. You're trying to hike the boat to keep it upright as hard as you can, and it's really, really, really hard work.
Well, that's cool. We've got 2 angles on it, from the drone and the water. We're looking at
magnificent technique, though. I mean, look how much their body weight is over the side, and the boat is just charging upwind. I mean, it really is poetry. And you can see the crew, Federico Melo, down near the water, getting the centre of gravity as low as possible. Hand over the head. Your hand might be only a kilo or 2, but every single kilo that you can get away from the centre line converts into right in a moment.
Look how far out Mateusz is hiking there. I mean, he's getting his body weight miles off.
He's a pretty tall guy, so he's probably 6'3", 6'4", so he can get his body weight a long way over the side, and you've got to hang there from your legs, using your core strength, being able to steer and being able to adjust the backstays at the same time. So it's tough going.
Well, there they are on the racetrack in the middle of the course, working their way out to the left-hand side of the track. And
interesting here now, Krishnerovich is not looking ahead. Benamati is still looking ahead, but Krishnerovich may have picked something up there on the right-hand side, and as potentially we will see as they get closer to the left-hand guys.
Meanwhile, heading to the right of the course, in the middle of the pack, Jürgen Schönherr, Dragon World Champ. Good Danish duo, quality act, enjoying mixing it up on Lake Garda at the SSL Breeze Grand Slam, which is combined with the Star European Championship. Flying back out virtually for the big picture, Krishnerovich right in the middle there. As we have a look at
third overall on the leaderboards. Negri and Clean. A little bit of audio from them.
Yeah.
Probably not talking too much together.
Yeah, I mean, Diego and Frida had a tough first beat. Digby, you know, they decided to work the right-hand side. It looked like a strategic decision, didn't pay off for them, and they're now just trying to get back to the left and trying to claw back some kind of a decent position.
Well, Fritjof crewman, he'll be leaning right out and communicating with Diego, his helmsman, and you can see where they are on the racetrack, heading up the left-hand side towards the mountainside. And this is a really cool race, number 7, because we're seeing such different strategies and tactics. We're seeing a more traditional, traditional style of sailing. And we can throw to Shirley just for a second. Over to you, Shirley.
Digby, we are right by the Polish duo. I mean, what a beat they have had. I think they were really brave. They came round on a good number on the right-hand side of that beat, and it looks like they've got the Star Turbo today. They were so fast and have now, to my mind, they're ahead. They've passed in front of the Italian and are heading now into that left-hand side of the course. So great job. I guess there's still boats really tight into the lake shore, and let's see if they manage to make a gain, but a huge gain from the Polish team.
Kuznidovic and Mello tack back into the racetrack. They're going smoothly, second overall. They've had 2 bullets, 2 race wins in the championship so far, and in the big picture of things, they are just 2 points overall behind Robert Scheidt and Henry Björning, and right now they are near the top of this. They're winning this race mathematically, Prof.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that this is a more open race course than we previously had thought. Obviously, left-hand side had paid big time on the first race, but Krasnorovic picked up something from the right there and came back into the centre, and he is now leading, and you know, he must have taken about 100 metres from Benenati.
Well, these are the overall projected points. So this is the points counting all 6 races plus where they are on the racetrack in race number 7. And if we do our maths here, Kuznidovic and Mello are now some 6 points ahead of Scheidt and Björning. Negri and Clean in third, Louf, Fatih, Ambrosini, Geard Lopez, Roja, Ponso, Melaby, Merkelbach and Coy are working their way up. They're having a really, really good race. Bow 61. And then Santoni and Lambertenghi from Torboli, they're in the mix there. And now the Croatians, I think Misura and Barak are in that little danger zone there in 11th. Doyle, Infelice, who seem to have a great first leg. And then your friends from Ireland, the O'Learys, are there within shouting distance of the top 10, as are Hornus and Moray. So this is this is the bigger picture, the overall standings on the left-hand side of the track. But we're into race number 7, and our race leaders and regatta leaders right now is Kuznidovic and Mello.
I mean, look at the difference in technique here. Mateus just max height compared to Eric Doyle, and it really does look as if they're establishing a grip on this race. Virtuali again has it switching between Benenati and Krasnorovic, but it looks to me as if Krasnorovic has got a grip on this race at this second meet. Interestingly, he's tapped back onto starboard now, so maybe he's taken a little bit of a right-hand shift and is trying to get back to the left, because we've seen the left play through pretty strong in the first upwind, but a really nice sailing from Mateus and Freddy. You can see Benenati there, right hand on the check stay, which is the lower runner. That's the stay which straightens the mast. When you pull that on, it pulls the spreaders back, deepens the mainsail, and allows you to point higher and go a little bit slower. You've got to be careful that you don't pull it too hard, because it's a real handbrake in the Star, because it causes the mainsail to be too deep and too draggy. So just got to play those backstays like a violin to keep the boat in balance.
Thanks, Prof. Well, Virtuali taking us beautifully on board Scheidt and Björning. Robert Scheidt. See,
it's wonderful to see the way that Shite can look around whilst sailing the boat. You know, he's just so in tune with the boat. He can look around for the breeze and assess his tactical options and literally sail the boat almost on autopilot.
And bounce them off Henry as well. And he's got the jury right on his hip, looking for any kinetics and body movements. So the jury looking very hard at the top runners and riders.
Yeah, there won't be much upwind, to be honest. You know, it's a static hiking type of boat, upwind in these conditions, and there's very little that you can do legally upwind in the start, to be honest, in these conditions anyway. So Robert Shite is going to be looking to see when he's going to tack onto port now and come over the left.
Danilon and Gazzetta, Italian team there. Not sure where they are on the racetrack.
Yeah, we've seen them actually have a occasional shining towards the head of the fleet. So you know, one of the Italian teams that can put it together from time to time.
Okay, well they are on the right-hand side of the racetrack and in the bottom half of the fleet right now, as the top contenders are right under the top mark, doing a lot more tacks in this race.
Yeah, you know, I mean, when you tack the star, you know, depending on the conditions, you know, you can lose anywhere between, you know, half a length to 3 lengths. So when you're deciding to tack, you know, you've got to make sure that you've got a good reason to do it, because a keelboat loses a lot of momentum in the tack. So, you know, generally speaking, most upwind legs, you probably have somewhere between 5 and 10 tacks, unless you're the lead boat in a very strongly favoured side where you could potentially have less. But Krishnerovic and Melo looking strong on the virtual eye, Digby, and they really have something, because, you know, when they came around that bottom mark and started heading right, and I was thinking, whoa, you know, that's fairly risky. But they just flicked back onto starboard and just must have hooked into a right-hander, a real special right-hander to drag them back over the top of the fleet. And they really have momentum now with their 2 bullets already in the regatta.
Well, it was great to see Kayard as well in that little group just behind the Polish-Portuguese duo. And we're looking back towards the famous tunnel. There is Kayard there.
Yeah, and Krishnerovic just tacked onto port, Digby, so he's just coming out of the left now. And, you know, he's extended. He's extended like something savage in this upper leg. You know, he looks as if he's about 100 metres ahead. And considering that Benamati probably had 50 metres at the bottom mark, that's a spectacular performance by the Polish helm and Portuguese crew.
Meanwhile, our drone having free rein over the racecourse and bothering some of the people at the back of the fleet and not troubling the front runners at the moment. But Krishnerovic and Melo, some 12 boat lengths ahead of Chaos and Lopez, now following in their track. We'll probably be able to see the American-Brazilian duo as they approach the top mark through this shot, but they're on a line within the top triangle, the cone we say, under the top mark, and they'll have probably free rein over their tacks towards the top mark.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Paul Caird and Arthur Lopez, you know, work the left-hand side of that upwind and look as if they're popped out into a solid second, and Caird is very fast upwind, and it looks as if he's got a pretty solid second place right now. But you can see Krishnerovic and Melo have just tacked underneath port Leyline. If the breeze goes left, it's good. If the breeze goes right, it's good. And they've got a half a handle on this race already. But you can see Caird here, really strong hiker as well. Look how much of his body weight is out over the side. And for a man whose big birthday is coming up on Sunday, that's very impressive indeed.
Well, Caird was sixth going into today with Arthur Lopez. We'll run the projected points on the downwind leg, and there they go, heading upwind. Caird, of course, America's Cup skipper, former star, world champ and a round-the-world race winning skipper as well.
Won the Volvo in 97, 98, skippering EF Language, and the Louis Vuitton Cup in 92, skippering Il Moro to Venezia, so a hugely decorated sailor.
And very well known in Italy, speaks Italian.
Yeah,
and
I was
here.
speaking to him before sailing the other day, and he took Italian lessons when he lived in Italy, when he was skipping the Il Moro campaign, and indeed his daughter was born in Milan. So he's got very, very close connections with this beautiful country, and loves coming back here. And of course, sails a Foley Star, which is built not that far from here. So and has always had a huge affinity with that Star boat builder.
Okay, just under the top mark, Kaznirovic and Mello, they tacked over. Now they're heading meters away from the top. Shirley, you're up there, I hope, quite close to Kaznirovic and Mello.
Digby, yeah, we're right at the top mark. I mean, what an impressive leg he has had. I guess he just sailed the shift, yeah, and he sailed fast, and he got over to the left-hand side when he could, and very, very impressive though. And I think looking ahead to tomorrow, he's got momentum, he's got confidence, and I think confidence in his duo as well, and his partner with Mello, you know, new for this event, but really finding the form. Very, very impressive.
Dini are in second place around that top mark. They're beginning to spread out. Kayard and Lopez approaching with bow number 1 right behind them. Eric Doyle, Payson, Infeliz. A few Americans there, Prof, close by. So this is going to do Paul Kayard's prospects on the overall leaderboard no end of good, as it will do Infeliz there. They are 4th going into today, and now they're in 4th position.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly Digby going around the gate. I think Caird might have well been in 4th, so a very, very solid upwind leg from him. So, and Eric Doyle and Payson will be looking to chase Caird going down this run. But right now, Kaznirovic and Mello looking very solid. And when Shirley interviewed them after the race yesterday, Mateus gave great credit to Federico in terms of his assistance with his view of the race course and the tactics. So Robert Scheidt here on camera, just reaching out to the offset leg. You can see him easing out the various controls to deepen up the sail shape, easing the outhaul, easing the vang, easing the jib tracks outboard, really easing the fine Cunningham, and getting ready to sling the mast forward over the bow and getting into downwind mode.
Then Marcus Coy, the big crewman, with Dr. Hubert Merkelbach just around the spreader mark, followed by Misura and Barak, the Croatians, who have had such a great regatta so far, 12th overall, so they're in contention.
Yeah, looking at the lead boats now, I think are all jibing onto port, and that would signify that the breeze is right shifted relative to the course axis, and we might well be looking at an almost straight lay down on port jibe with this right and wind shift.
Well, getting busy around the top mark, a lot of boats, and it's still super close, considering we're now on to the final run down towards the finish line. But we're seeing the closest racing so far in race number 7 of the SSL Breeze Grand Slam. And there's a lovely view as the sailors bear away, and we're on board with Negri and Clean. And you can see the main sheets is now loose and far out and behind them. Not sure, I think that's the Rohard and Ponceau, the Frenchman, and we can hear on board from Negri and Clean. We can hear the audio.
Yeah, Xavier will be disappointed because they were looking strong up that first beat out of the left-hand side, so I'm not sure where they came unstuck, but they're around about 8th now, which of course is just want to be his top 10, as we keep saying. They just slipped back just a little, but everybody jibing down to port, and it looks like a straight lay down here on port jibe down to the finish.
Well, let's stay on board with Robert Scheid just for a few moments because Robert is one of the best downwind sailors on the planet right now. He lives here in Lake Garda. He trains here with Luca, his coach, and he goes downwind all day, you know, with these two conflicting winds, the Pele and the Aura. And here he is. We'll see a little bit of body language and Moskov. Prof, you can talk us through this a little bit.
Just, you know, body weight moves back, sheets the sail in, using his entire body weight to sheet the sail. And as the apparent wind goes forwards and backwards, he's just adjusting the sail in and out, and depending on the action of the boat on the wave. It was good to see the O'Leary brothers just behind them. They're looking really good, actually. I think they might be they're sixth, something like that, and they're on a nice trajectory. Their last two results were a 6th and a 9th, and they've got some work to do to get to the top 10, but that's the way.
Now down, we're looking from our drone shot to Kuznerovic and Mello, who have now got this race almost in the bag. I won't say that completely, because they have Scheid and Björning behind them attacking them, but they've got a few boat lengths on Benamati and Ambrosini. There's Kayard and Lopez, Scheid, Björning in 4th position, and the O'Learys in 5th, Prof.
Yeah, it's pretty much a straightforward run. Straight, you know, not a whole lot of tactical options now, because with this right-hand shift with respect to the course axis, they're just laying this down on port. So it's all just about straight line speed now, and Matthias will just be hoping that he doesn't roll it in like he did yesterday and drop the rig, which I'm sure he won't do.
Well, Shirley, you're working away from the top mark back down towards the race leaders. Is it all about straight line speed right now, Shirley?
Digby, yes, I mean, Prof spotted it. They're laying the bottom mark, so no jives, not a lot of tactics. Although it is quite puffy. The wind has dropped a fair bit. It's quite flat water, and there is, you know, I can see puffs on the water. So I guess, you know, we can see the crews looking back, just giving a little insight into where the pressure is. But it's straight down to the mark, and to me it looks like the Italian team are doing really well downwind, and we saw them on the last run. They were quick, so I doubt if Matthias and Federico are relaxing just yet. This battle could run quite a lot further. Still, perhaps, you know, just over a mile to go until the finish line, so plenty left in this race.
Thanks, Shirley. Back on board with Robert Scheid and Henry Björning. There he goes, fairly smooth. He's sitting inboard, so as Shirley says, a little bit less breeze. Not playing the main sheet hugely. And Henry moving around the mast. And they are, well, we think they're in 4th. And these are the projected points. I beg your pardon. We're looking at the projected points on the left-hand side.
I tell you what's interesting, Digby, is the O'Learys will be delighted with this if they just hang on in this 5th place, because they're now 6 points off top 10, and in theory they've got 3 races to go in the qualification series, so that's absolutely fantastic for them. So you know, they're on a bit of a charge now if they can just hang on here in this 5th place.
So overall, if these positions stay the same, Kuznerovic and Mello are now top of the overall leaderboards, ahead of Scheid and Björning by 1 point, nothing in that. And then quite a few points to Kayard and Lopez, with Luf and Fatih in 4th, and then Benamati and Ambrosini with such an amazing race here, 2nd in race number 7, yomping them up the leaderboard to 5th overall. Rohart Ponceau, consistency paying off for the Frenchman, so that overall, if the positions stay the same, they're in 6th. Melleby and Revkin are also in contention. They're having a decent race, number 7, as are Negri Clean and Santoni and Lambertenghi. But as you say, Prof, this means that the Irish duo have hauled themselves up from 14th overall into contention in the top 10.
Yeah, they're under a little pressure now if I'm looking at the virtual eye though, because they've got 3 or 4 boats have taken the high road behind them, and if they all lay down one, that could be sketchy for the O'Learys. So it's a little bit dodgy now, that 5th position. They'd have to really work low and get some clear air and just try and work the low side, and hopefully the boats on the windward side of them behind don't lay down on one. So they'll be a little bit nervous now with these couple of boats close to them.
Okay, so it looks like in the overall story for race number 7 that we have the 1st, 2nd and 4th. Maybe Benamatting and Abrazidi can take Kuznirovic and Melo. They're certainly bearing down on them and trying to steal their wind. But the real fight as we move back virtually through the fleet is going to be for 6th, 7th, 8th at the moment.
I mean, you know, Kuznirovic's positioning here is perfect. He's just positioned him a half length, a third of a length to windward of Benamatti's line, so he just was protecting the high side. So even if Benamati closed, Mateus is not going to let him to windward.
And this is where it gets interesting. Look at Rohart, Melleby, Merkelbach, Coy, that little bunch there. They're going to be so close on the finish line. So I would say, unless Benamati and Ambrosini can take the win, that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 probably settled. But look at that little group for 6th, 7th and 8th in this race. That's going to be a dynamic little race. But meanwhile at the front, Mateusz Kuznirovic, Federico Melo holding off the Italians right behind them.
Yeah, really, really super smooth sailing from Mateus. He's looking down now, possibly at the gate to leeward of him, so there still might be a jibe. Can't really see on virtual eye. Are they absolutely laying down, or will there be a little short jibe in the end? But I wouldn't anticipate that Mateus and Federico will jibe it all until the very last second, if indeed they need to. So this is great information on screen now with the projected points to be. This is really super, but it is switching around depending on the positions of the boat in this race. The cusp of the top 10 is what it's all about. But there's still 3 races to go if we get the full program in.
Indeed.
And but this is really, really nice sailing now from the O'Learys and indeed from Merkelbach and Marcus Coy. And remember, they were just sitting in the top 10 going into today, I believe. Oh, no, they're 11th, so they've actually pulled up a bit. So
okay, so 30 meters from the 1st and 2nd in race number 7. If you're looking left, these are the overall projected points after 7 races. So that gives you who is surviving in the top 10, with anyone from 11th down will be out of the quarterfinals, semis and finals tomorrow.
There's surfing action there, Digby. You see that? Look, just riding the wave down. Roberto Benamati bow just out of the water, and just having the body weight of his crew no further forward, otherwise he'll dig the bow in, and sliding the body weight forwards and backwards just to get the boat riding down into those troughs really sweetly.
Well, Prof, they are clearly attacking Kuznirovic and Melo at the front. Kayard and Lopez in their own little breeze in 3rd position. Scheidt and Björning looking safe in 4th. The O'Learys looking safe in 5th. But it's really going to be Negri, Lambertenghi, and Melleby and Revkin.
There is a jibe in it here, Digby. Really interesting. I'd expect that Kuznirovic will jibe to cover, and so Benamati throwing the jibe onto starboard, and it'd be really interesting to see if Mateus jibes as well.
Let's jump out to Shirley. These guys, Benamati attacking the Portuguese-Polish. Do you think Mateusz Kuznirovic is safe here, Shirley?
Well, he's looking around a lot, Digby. Yes, he jibed to stay with them. I think they just, as they've got to the bottom half of this leg, the wind has gone slightly further to the left, and it's come in as well on that left-hand side. So Mateus and Federico, the Polish team, just trying to defend. But the Italians have made some gains. They were on that. They were the first to jibe. They were the first into pressure. So yeah, but I think he may well be running out of time. It's about 200 meters to go until the finish of this race.
Thanks, Shirley. So Roberto Benamati and Alberto Ambrosini in second in this race. Benamati, a star world champ, class act from Italy, and they've had a great regatta so far. 5th, 7th, 13th, 16th, and a discard 49th. And there they go, trying to get a little bit of separation towards the finish.
Yeah, you know, if there is a jibe in it, you know, if you've nothing to lose and you're in second, you're going to throw a jibe at the leader just to see what happens. And but obviously, if you're the leader, then you're just going to set yourself up possibly to leeward and ahead, so that you can position yourself between the finish line and the second boat. So you'd expect Matheus, you know, it doesn't matter, they can bleed away the boat lengths all they like once they're ahead at the finish. So you know, they won't be that concerned if Benamati is closing. And looking here now, it's hard to see on video, but you know, there's probably, I don't know, maybe there's 3 or 4 minutes between them, and but not a lot of time left to go to the finish. So
well, we could see our camera boat just putting the hammer down to try and get the 2 boats in one shot. So we might go back to that shot and just see from our camera's eye where they are in relation to each other. Virtual Eye is giving us about 2 boat lengths, so we're hammering down towards the finish line, and there it is, Kuznerovic and Mello taking their 3rd win of the series, and you can see what that means to them. They have held off the Italian duo right behind them coming through the line. That sees the Portuguese duo Matheus Kuznerovic and Frederico Mello firmly at the top of the overall leaderboard. Superb racing, their 3rd win of the series.
Fantastic race for them. Again, very, very smart, tactically masterful on that second beat, but fast as well. So a really, that was a stellar win from Matheus and Frederico.
Well, there were only 7 seconds between the Polish-Portuguese duo and the Italians Benamati, Ambrosini, Kayod and Lopez, just 30 seconds behind them. So that was the procession through the finish line. Scheid and Björning 53 seconds behind the leader through the finish, and behind them we should be seeing the O'Learys, the 2 Irish brothers, and this is their best result so far, getting their mojo on prop right at the right moment.
Yeah, 3rd top 10 place now for Peter and Robert, so absolutely fantastic that they've got going, because I know that they would have been a big disappointment with their son.
Now, Prof, if our camera widens out a bit, we should actually see some amazingly close finishes between Melleby, Rohard, Negri and Clean. 4 boats indeed screaming down towards the finish together. Nothing in it from the virtual eye perspective. Through the line they go. It looks like Melleby and Redkin almost neck and neck with Negri and Clean. Rohard and Ponceau a millimetre behind, with Hornos and Moray behind them. So one of the closest finishes we've had in all 7 races, and that was pretty dramatic. And quick as a flash, Shirley Robertson, you are on with the race winners. Over to you, Shirley.
There's no hanging about round here, Dick, but yes, on with the winners. And Matheus, we saw you cross that line and give a big fist pump. It meant a lot to win that race.
Oh yeah, for sure. First of all, welcome back. we have you quite often, and this is amazing actually. This is 3rd race of the championship we are winning. Yeah, this is very important moment of the regatta, because now we are fighting for the top standing, and first we'll go directly to the final. Second will go to the semi-final. So this is the big benefit, and maybe during the race we are not thinking about it, but when you ask now, that means a lot to us.
It feels like you've got great form, and just commentating on that race, it felt also like you were making some brave decisions. How confident are you in your speed and your tactics?
Yes, we had the first step when we had to fight a lot. We were kind of pinned to the left, but we managed to get out in a good position. Good first downwind, then we round to the second upwind. The wind was really lifted, so we just keep going a bit, and then headed, and then that was it. So So things also going our way, and so it's very nice.
And just quickly, Matthias, you know, a new pairing for this event, and it could not be going better.
Yes, we really enjoy ourselves, but not only on the water, but also on shore. We are not staying together. We are not living in the same room, the same hotel, but we meet for coffee, we meet for dinner. Not only two of us, but also with the other bunch of people. It's a great atmosphere here with this 94 boats sailing. So we're enjoying, but for me, it's something new. For so many years, I was sailing with Dominic. Dominic, hello. Best regards. This regatta, I'm sailing with Federico. Last regatta, I sailed with Fritjof. Next regatta, I will be sailing with Brazilian Bruno Prada. It's crazy. It's amazing, but I love it.
But it's been great to watch. Good luck in the next race. Thank you.
Well, words from the winners just seconds after crossing that line. We can watch the rest of the fleet go through, but clearly he is now thinking of being top of the overall leaderboard, who will get that leap into the final.
Yeah, I mean, Shirley's going to have an X on Matthias and Federico's deck for the spot she's going to have to jump in. She's getting so familiar to jumping in. Third time, 3 bullets. And yeah, Matthias and Federico are really on a roll here now. And their last 2 race wins were just super, super impressive. You know, they backed themselves on that second upwind in that leg. And you know, they did the same in the race win yesterday, where they set themselves up to win it of the leader on that second beat. So they've made a move on the second upwind in the last 2 races for them, which has won them the race. And you know, a combination of great speed but also great confidence in their ability has seen them take this victory.
Well, their worst result, Prof, is a 27th, which is with a broken mast. You know,
yeah, they just
almost floating down through the finish.
They just rolled it in, Digby. They, you know, it's one of the things that you can do in the Star really easily. You're going downwind with the jib pulled out, and if you just roll the boat in a fraction too much to windward, the jib pole just glances off the water, backs the jib and slaps the rig, and that's what they did. But they changed rigs and swapped sails, and they've come out, you know, arguably even better. So they're flying, absolutely flying.
Well, there's still plenty of breeze out on the racetrack as the last dozen boats slide through the finish line. Barth and Roots, the Germans going through. Hamper and Stetka just about to come through. Juan Kay with his crewman, the famous America's Cup and Volvo Ocean Race race boat designer. This is not his best result, but actually they've been doing pretty well overall, coming in today in 26th. They've had quite a good series of results, and it is proof that this class does attract a wide variety of sailors.
Yeah, you know, the Star has sailed all over the world, in the Bavarian lakes to the you know, the waters of Canada to, you know, beautiful Pittwater in North Sydney. So you know, there are sailors from all levels and all walks of life.
Well, Prof, you're going to like this, because Shirley has managed to clamber aboard the Irish boat with Peter O'Leary and Robert O'Leary. Over to you, Shirley.
We are, and if you get a visit from me, Digby, then it's good news generally. And we think we've been doing a little bit of mental math, and we think you might be in 10th position. So, you know, if there was a day to get a good result, it was today, Peter. You know, just talk to us a little bit about that race.
Yeah, the starting here is quite tricky. So if you can just live for as long as you can and just keep chipping away, and that's what we kind of had to do. I guess we were probably somewhere in the teens, and then just kept chipping away and staying out of trouble. I don't think the sides are as strong today as they were yesterday. You know, guys were coming out of the middle, so it's not a case of touching our bow off the rocks anymore. So in that race anyway, so we just have to keep chipping away and try and get single-digit scores, and that will have us at the right place.
Just watching you racing, you seem a different boat today, maybe a little bit more focused.
Yeah, this conditions suit us today. It's a bit more of tactics rather than just hitting the cliff and going. We didn't have a great start there, but as Peter said, just chipped our way through and got back up into the front of the pack, so no, it was good.
Good luck for the next race, thank you.
Thanks, Shirley. Great stuff. Jumping on board, quick work, and as she says, when you see Shirley turn up, it's good news. Not just for racing, Prof.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's you know, it just shows what the story is here, though, because it's all about getting into the top 10.
Yeah.
You know, it's about, you know, the top guys, Kushnevich and Scheidt. It's about, you know, who can finish first and second to get that bye into the final or that bye into the semi-final. But for the rest of them, it's about getting into the top 10. And the O'Learys, you know, depending, we'll see the points. Obviously, we don't know exactly, but they'll be knocking hard on the door of the top 10 now, and that's fantastic for them.
OK, so that's the immediate scenario of race 7. We'll come back with the overall standings in just a minute, but let's have a little review, Prof, of those key moments in race number 7. So into the start from the drone, and you could see a lot of people bunched up at the left.
Yeah, a lot of space at the windward end, but most of the action happening down the leeward end. And that's, you know, obviously the fleet deciding that the left-hand side of the track looked favoured. They're relatively close to the shore on the left-hand side, and that's where most people came out of the start line. And cracking view of the Argentinians going up there. And, you know, strong conditions again, quite like Wednesday and Thursday. Little white caps in the water, 16, 17 knots of breeze. And you know, you're looking to set the rig up, flat sails and moderately open leaches for high point.
A lot more tacking here. This is a far more traditional style of fleet race.
Yeah, you know, it's left-hand favoured, but not hard into the corner. Some wind shifts coming in from the middle right as well.
Okay, at the top you could see the guys Benamati and Ambrosini, who I thought had such an amazing first leg, weave their way up. But then the Americans, Doyle and Infeliz, just squeezed inside them for a super close mark rounding.
Yeah, it's really, really close, as it often is at these windward marks after the first beat, and that makes the exit from the offset mark absolutely critical, that you can set yourself up super quickly into downwind mode.
Well, third around the mark, Robert Scheidt, the downwind maestro.
Yeah, and you know, initially standing on here on the starboard jibe, but pretty quickly getting on to port as the breeze starts to move to the right throughout that race.
Oh, good cheer on the racetrack. The sailors enjoying our coverage and having SSL part of the Star European Championship.
Yeah, bottom mark here now, Benamati and Ambrosini very fast downhill. You know, they pulled out a big lead at the bottom of this second run, and yeah, they're really very quick indeed.
Well, the Speers from Germany, nice work from them. Kuznedovich and Mello beginning to make a stand.
This is the big move
on
here.
the race.
You know, they went right initially out of the bottom mark and then tacked onto starboard and looked as they hooked into a right-hander, and combined with you know, really good pace upwind, they managed to lead around the top mark by a nice margin, coming around the top mark up at the top after that second beat.
Well, round they go with a few boat lengths now, Prof.
Yeah.
Ahead of Ambrosini.
Yeah, reaching out to the offset mark. Breeze is shifted to the right, so they'll just jibe at the offset mark, and then it's just a lay down on port, making sure that you just protect your windward side, don't let anybody get high on you, and just go fast.
Scheidt with the Irish O'Learys right behind them, back towards the front, gracing their way down towards the finish. Federico Mello, Mateusz Kuznedovich, Cayard and Lopez in third, I believe, behind the Italians, Ambrosini and here we go towards the finish. So that was I thought the Italians were gaining speed, actually.
Well, they were. I mean, and they threw a jibe at Mateusz and Federico as well, just to put them under pressure, because as soon as they realised that there was some starboard jibe in it, that's the time to attack. And they did the right thing for sure. They closed up on them, and I think they only beat them in the end by about 7 seconds. But Digby, it doesn't matter if you beat them by 1 second or 1 minute. Once you beat them, that's all that matters.
Oh, and you can see how much that meant to Mateusz Kuznedovich. Well, they are in good moods now, leaping to the top of the leaderboard, Prof.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and as Matthias said in his post-race interview with Shirley, you know, they're very focused now on the first and second to get that by past the quarters and into the semis, or if you finish first, getting straight into the final.
So just by 1 point, though, ahead of Robert Scheidt and Henry Björning. There are scheduled 3 more races in the qualifying round. So hopefully we'll have another one today, potentially 2 tomorrow. We can't say because it is all dictated by the gods, the wind gods on Lake Garda. Diego Negri, Fritjof clean. That was a good 8th finish there for them to finish 3rd overall. And then Doyle and Infeliz with that wonderful first start and first leg up win. They're in 4th overall. And 3rd in that last race means that Paul Kayard, Arthur Lopez are in 5th overall. Freddie Luth, Brian Fati, 19th. Their worst result. I mean, what a consistent line of scores they have. So they are firmly in contention to make the top 10 cut. Benamati and Ambrosini have just done themselves a huge favour with such skillful sailing in race number 7 to be 7th overall with Rohard and Ponceau. We didn't see much of them in that race, but they were in that little second pack around the racetrack, and they are now 8th overall. Eivind Melleby and Josh Revkin, the Norwegian-American duo, they're in 9th now on 64 points, and making the top 10 cut is Dr. Hubert Merkelbach, the president of the Star Class, with Marcus Coy, the great crewman who has won this European trophy some 3-4 times, one of the most decorated names in the Star Class. Those guys are on 73 points. 10 points now towards your buddies, the O'Leary brothers from Southern Ireland, from around Cork. And they're equal tied on points with the local sailors, Santoni and Lambertengi from Torboli. And then the Croatian duo of Misura and Barak on 86 points. As we slide down a few, Grail and Truth still in contention. Remember, they are some 20 something points behind the 10th Merkelbach and Coy, and then we go down towards 20th Zabo and Avalon, who I would suspect would say that they're not going to make that top 10.
I mean, there's a couple of things there from that leaderboard, Digby, that are worth noting. Firstly, is that the Robert Scheidt and Matthias Kushnervich look as if they're comfortably gone now in terms of the first and second into the past the quarters and the semis. But the second thing now is the battle to get into the top 10. And if you look at the points, it looked that the O'Leary brothers are 10 points behind Hubert Merkelbach. And what that means is that in 3 races, they've got to beat Merkelbach by over 3 places in each race. But that's not all they've got to do, because they're tied with another boat, so they can't allow that other boat to leapfrog them as well. So what Peter and Robert have to do probably is just put that out of their minds, certainly for the next race, and then take a good, long, hard look at the points tonight, and then try and perhaps sail a bit strategically tomorrow with regard to their competition. But for them now, you know, it's all about getting into the top 10, but they are tied, I think it was on 83 points. So that's where it really gets tight for them, just trying to make that top 10.
Well, one sailor who still has a shot at that top 10 is Lars Grail from Brazil, and he's been the Star Class president for a few years, and he's handed that baton over to Hubert Merkelbach, doing such a great job. Hubert bringing in the SSL and marrying up 2 organisations so well, which we're enjoying tremendously on Lake Garda. But Lars is telling us that he is thinking that this might be his last big regatta. Let's hear from him. Lars, tell me, how is it to be here in Lake Garda for the first ever Breeze Grand Slam and the European Championship?
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a wonderful place for tourism. Maybe this week seems to be wild in terms of wind condition, but it's very nice to see joining together SSL event with the European Championship of the Star Class. It's a huge fleet, so we're gonna have extremely high-level competition. It's going to be tough, big challenge.
Tell us about who you're sailing with here, your crew and your dynamic there.
In this championship, I'm sailing with Pedro Henrique Trouche, called Boulder, because Samuel, which is my normal crew, he would not race the Worlds because he's going to be father now in June. So then the European would be my training event. So I invited Boulder to sail here. He's a very young, talented crew. Just won the SSL finals with George Zarif. So he's a very good crew, and I'm glad I'm sailing with him.
Now, I heard a rumor that this may be your last kind of major international championship. Is that true?
That's true. I was thinking about, I'm getting in an age where sailing star class in this level, it needs a lot of energy. And the energy basically means time and money, and not only the physical condition. So I want to dedicate more time for work. I'm already 55 years old, and also do different sailing, family and friends. But I'm going to be in touch with the star class, maybe doing some occasional events. And weekend sailing I'm going to be doing in Rio like ever.
Never say never, Lars. You must never say never. But maybe your last big international. But, you know, we've got people coming in like George. Fantastic. Enjoy your regatta, mate.
Thank you. I'm going to enjoy every hour, every moment, every race.
Cheers. Well, as good a philosophy as you can have.
Absolutely extraordinary competitor, Digby. You know, to win 2 Olympic medals in the Tornado and to have that horrific accident, speedboat accident in '98, and then to start sailing the Star, you know, after extensive program of rehab in 2000, and to win the world title, just unbelievable, really, an immense character.
Okay, well, great. Good on you, Lars. We've been enjoying your company, and he's a genial fellow around the boat park. Can chit away and chat to everybody, and getting fully involved in sports administration back in Brazil. All athletes from all sports have a very high regard for him, and he now represents them, you know, on a government level.
Yeah, and took over the presidency of the Star class after the London 2012 Games, when the Star lost its Olympic status. And whenever a class loses its Olympic status, it's a very, very wobbly time, because the class doesn't know where it's going, the boats devalue, the sailors wonder what they're going to do next, they switch classes, and he navigated the class very, very skillfully in the last 4 or 5 years to the fantastic position that it's in today.
Okay, well, at the SSL finals in Nassau over the past 6 years, this is the invitational event, and half the entries are invited and half are winners of the SSL ranking points. So we caught up with Diego Negri. He's 3rd overall on the leaderboard standings, sailing with Fritjof Clean. But Diego Negri, very well known in Italy, less well known around Europe and around the world. But he has a great story about his passion and love for sailing.
So Diego, up to you to share a bit of your sailing past with us. You sent us photos. Here they are.
You want to know the story? This is my place, Diano Marina, where I was when I grew up, and in the sailing club. My father was the president of the club and the coach. So I started working in the club since I was just a bébé, and at 5 I started sailing with the bigger boats. After the sailing school, we were allowed to use my mother boat is a Europe #1 in Italy, Italy 1. I'm the skipper in this picture. As I told you, any moment was good to spend time on the water. So when I was 8, 9, was still pretty early, because there were not small sails yet. This one was the few small sail, was like 5 meters square, something like that, and so allow us to sail even if we were really young. This is the Optimist career. This is my first own boat, not a boat from the sailing school. I hated this boat because all the corner around the boat were with a piece of rubber, and the rubber was not stitching every day. I had to repair it with my father after sailing, and it was really a nightmare.
On the next one we see the name of the boat, which
Yeah,
is Dumbo.
Dumbo. Dumbo is the elephant with a big ear. You know, everybody knows the story. So this is this boat should have allowed me to fly, of course. When I was 18, I started sailing with the laser, but one step sometimes was on a fin, because I was maybe supposed to step in an Olympic career.
I think that's the fin.
And that's a fin again. I don't actually look like the guy is in the picture. That's really many years ago. This is a laser from the 90s, early 90s. It was one of the first years in the Olympic campaign, so I think it's 92, 93. So the story was just beginning. This picture should be around 2000, 2002, something like that. And I remember the photo shooting was in my place. A guy from TNT came to make this super picture, so I had the opportunity the first time to have really professional pictures, and I was so proud to have this kind of shooting to have to show to everybody, to give to newspapers and everything, and really nice moment. This is Sydney Olympic. Sailing the Olympics is the dream of any sportsman. Even better to win a medal. I didn't make it. I was 8 in Sydney, but very close to the medals. I won a race. I was really close to the podium for a while. So the experience was super, and sailing in the Sydney Harbour was really an amazing experience. So that's a good memory too. This is the Athens Olympics, my second Olympic with the laser. All the regatta has been with very light wind. We were really well prepared, but at the end I didn't reach any medal. I finished 13. My dream was to step in the start. I was sailing. I had no idea about runners or anything. I was just sailing like with laser, with holding the main sheet, and we had no idea about how to trim the mast. So we took like 3-4 days to put the mast straight. And the first race we sailed in Naples, 2006, we sailed from 5 to 25 knots with tape on the Stamaster to avoid this problem. I was really a real laser sailor at that moment. After that, we grew up in knowing the boat. This boat was a super boat. It was a Lilia, a 266, and the regatta here is in the Worlds in Miami. My second beginning in 2006 was 2008. After 2 years, I reached silver medal in the Worlds in Miami. Was really could be the end of the career, because stepping in a star, going to the Templum of the Stars with all the popular American sailors and everything. I mean, such a good result. Was really a dream come true.
Diego, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Well, great Italian sailor, lovely memories, and that was out in the Bahamas, the SSL finals, which they're running again in December. Prof, just a couple of days before the start of this regatta, I noticed that quite a few guys had come from the USA, and one of those was Eric Doyle, who'd come from a win in the Bacardi Cup. Let's hear from Eric. Eric, for you and Payson, all the way from the States, a long way to come to do a European Championship.
Yeah, I've never sailed here in Lake Garda before, and you know the SSL has really gone out all with a star class to put on a great event here in Garda, and we're also coming over to do the Worlds next month in Porto Cervo, so you know we felt this was a great opportunity to do 2 fantastic star events in Europe, so we made the effort.
What do you know about Lake Garda?
We know that it's generally pretty windy, and the conditions are quite volatile. We were out yesterday, and it was very shifty, very tricky, and a lot of fun and just a beautiful, stunning place. I'm enjoying just seeing the scenery, however well we, whatever we're doing. Sometimes we were a little out of control yesterday, but I was still having a great time because it's so beautiful here.
Okay. And can you just tell us a little bit about your skipper crew, your relationship with Payson? How long have you guys been sailing together? How's it going?
Yeah, Payson made me aware the other day that we've been sailing together for about 7 years now, so quite a while. And it's really great sailing because he's a really good sailor in his own right. He kind of runs the show downwind, and if he says, hey, we're going to go to the right mark and go left upwind, then I just take it and make it happen. And everything happens just automatically. There's no distractions. I can focus on what I'm doing, and he can focus on what he's doing, and we trust that each other is doing the correct thing. And he helps me out a lot. I can tell him, hey, I'm head down, I got a problem, and then he'll say, oh, we got to keep going, or there's a boat coming. So it's fantastic to sail with somebody like that.
A lot of boats here, 96 or so. How hard is it going to be to win this one?
It's going to be incredibly hard because all the really good guys are here, from Matthews, from Xavier, and Freddie Loof, and Robert Scheidt, and Paul Kayard, and Augie Diaz, and there's 10 or 12 guys who could win the regatta, and there's probably 25 guys who could win a race. So, it's as challenging, if not more challenging, than a world championship right now. So it's fantastic. That being said, we had a pretty good turnout at Bacardi Cup last month, and we were fortunate enough to do well there, so hopefully it kind of continues and we can figure out the heavy wind and tricky conditions here in Lake Garda. So that's what we're looking forward to, the challenge.
Now back with live images, just under a minute 30, Prof, to go to the start of race number 8 on Lake Garda.
U flag in operation as well, Digby. That means anybody who's over the line with 1 minute to go will be disqualified if the race isn't recalled or postponed. Am I just seeing somebody popping out at the port end? Can't quite see the pin, so it looks pretty spread evenly across the line.
1 minute to go. The U flag down, the Star Class flag flying. Shirley Robertson, you're out there on the racetrack. What can you tell us?
Well, Digby, as you spotted, the fleet is well spread out across this line. Not nearly, so critical, I think, to be on one side or the other, and a great opportunity, I think, for everyone to get a much better start. But a lot of the main players down that left-hand side looking to take advantage of the line bias and get to that left-hand shore.
Thanks, Shirley. While Virtual is giving us Kayard and Lopez about 3/4 of the way down there, we're seeing Zobar and Aurel furthest boat. Somebody just over and blowing off their chances. They'll have to finish. But Negri and Clean at pin end. Grail, Truce are in the middle. Benamati and Brazino in there.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Boom, off they go to the start of race number 7 in the Star Class Europeans and the SSL Breeze Grand Slam on Lake Garda. A beautiful sight as the bows nose their way across the start line, upwind in a far more tactical scenario, Prof, on this day, the penultimate day of the championship.
Yeah, the Dutch guys, Heiko de Boer, had a cracking start out of the port end, bow forward on everybody, but still clean. And Vasily Zabogard, the treble Olympic medalist, who we haven't seen much of in this event, he started on the pin and going hard left. Diego Negri and Fritzoff Clean about 5 up from the pin, and Robert Scheidt and Henry Björning about 2 or 3 up from him. Kayard Lopez out of the middle, very, very little line sag, so superb positioning by the fleet, and everybody's in a line, but big port end bias right now is showing the guys initially to the left ahead, but it'll all be just about holding the lane right now and trying to wriggle free so you can drop the bow and go fast.
Well, Bondar and Maltsev heading to the right. There are only a half dozen boats in their own clean air. Now just 4 boats heading to the right-hand side, and perhaps we'll see these guys tacked over fairly soon, but they are taking a very different strategy to the rest of the fleet there, Prof.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You know, if you start on the right hand side of the line, it's going to be very, very hard to get left. So you know, that's really why these guys have ended up here. They might be looking for a little bit more clear air, but in general, the action is on the left, and that's where the initial gains are anyway right now.
Well, mathematically, if you look at on the left-hand side of your screen, you're seeing the race order in race number 8. The O'Learys duking it out with Loof and Petit, Merkelbach and Coy, Melleby, Revkin, Kuznirovic and Mayo. Quite a few of the usual suspects in that little bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, just the boat on screen here, you can just see them. They're just after sheeting the jib on to flatten out the jib, and that will improve the balance of the boat. But the boat closest to the screen here, jib is sheeted a little bit too loosely, and that will give them weather helm, and that's not quick. You can see the basin of the jib there is very, very deep, and there's about 75 millimeters between the clew of the jib and the block, compared to the jib of the boat on the windward side, which is much flatter and much straighter, and that means that the boat will be in balance an awful lot better.
Good comparison, Prof. Of course, you are a star-class Olympic campaigner and star Olympic coach back in the day, so you can use these images for a little bit of coaching.
Well, it's as I keep saying, it's easy when you're sitting here in the studio. It's not so easy to be when you're out there in the water, but sometimes it can be helpful to have an outside view.
Well, we're bow on now with Appel and Noll from Germany.
You can see their mainsail now. Mast is probably overbending here, and the mainsail is running out of shape, and that constant flapping and ragging of the main is drag, and what they need to do is probably pull on the lower backstay, the check stay a little bit. Again, they haven't got their jib sheeted hard enough either. It's too full, and you know, if they just sheeted the jib harder and straighten the rig a little bit better, they'll just go a little quicker.
Well, Lars Grail with Pedro Trusch, the great guy, on his final big international regatta. He's in the middle of the pack, in the middle of the lake. The vast majority of the fleet heading left up towards that little coastline there in Limoni, I think the village that they're aiming for, with the famous tunnel that they had in the James Bond film Quantum of Solace. I think they trashed about 7 or 8 Aston Martins.
Yeah, the tracker is just showing the O'Leary brothers here leading by 4 minutes, or 4 meters from Kuznirovic. Hard to see exactly on virtual eye where they are. I did spot them about 10 seconds before the start, and the O'Learys were about 20% up from the pin, so a strong early showing from them, and they'll be looking to build on that great result of 6th that they had in the first race today. Looks like Caird and Lopez as well, pretty strong, started 1/3 up from the pin.
Okay, as Thomas Apparel and Christian Noll work their way upwind, let's take another look, Prof, at that race start and see what we can see again.
Yeah, nice clean start. You know, boats furthest advanced down towards the pin. Little bit of line sag.
Ned Edgy 9, they had a really nice start there.
Absolutely cracking start on bow 32. Look at them bow forward. Oof. And a really superb start.
Sam Chavez.
Yeah, really, really excellent start from them.
Okay, as was 59, which is Fabian McGowan and Juan Pablo Cosi from Argentina. So that was the race start. Race starts have been utterly crucial in this game, as they are in all fleet racing starts. But right now, the majority heading left up the racetrack.
Few boats coming out of there now on port. Looks like Diego Negri and Fritzof Clean are hard left but have tacked onto port, and it may be that Gerhard and Lopez have tacked onto port as well, looking at virtual eye, and Jürgen Schooner here in the right-hand corner.
Schooner and Gravad have had their moment of glory, haven't they, in this regatta?
Well, they've certainly had their moment approaching the start on port tack that time, and subsequently having to retire. But the right-hand side isn't looking great for them right now.
Well, we do have some onboards. We'll come back to those. We're using mobile phone technology today, Prof, for the onboard shots around the fleet. And we're using virtual eye for this fabulous view flying us over the top of Lake Garda. Rohard and Ponso in it. It is the O'Learys looking like they're poking a nose out in front. Here's Rainer Pettersson and Oliver Berger from Germany. Bow number 70. I'm not sure where they are in relation to anybody else.
Yeah, it looks as if they're right, so to the right of the pack somewhere, but a fantastic tactical battle going on now on the left-hand side with the boats crossing each other. But bow number 70 and 71 here in port tack, heading right, and a little bit better. Jib still slightly under-trimmed, possibly the outhaul a little loose.
Okay, our camera boats, our cameraman out there on the water reframing, finding he's under the thumb, under the drive of the director to pick out put some great shots, and we're really enjoying the views on Lake Garda as well as the onboards. Well, here's Diego Negri and Fritjof Clean. Negri, as we saw from that little story of how he grew up, a great sailor from Italy, sailing with Fritjof Clean, and these two integral in the Star Class and the SSL. They've been to the SSL finals for the past few years. They came into today in third overall, so they're in a really good spot within the top 10.
Yeah, and featuring very strongly initially in this part of the race, probably top 3 or 4 coming out of the left. So they will be looking to improve on their showing, but they actually staged a spectacular recovery, to be fair, in that first race today, because they weren't looking great coming out of the right hand side of that first beat. I think they pulled through to 8, so it just shows how fast Diego and Fritzof are.
Well, here's Vince Guidou, bow 43, Vincent Guidou with Jan Dorset. These guys have been enjoying your commentary, Trop, particularly as you've noticed a few rig settings that they have now changed, and look at them go. They're sliding away in the middle of the lake and really mixing it up with the leaders.
Yeah, the base of the jib there now is nice and flat, and that's really what you're looking for in the start, to get rid of the weather now. So that's really nice. Ben Amati here to windward in 7.488. Looks a little bit buried in the pack, and but he's still heading to the middle and port tack with the clear lane, and but looks like he's just come adrift, detached from the pack to the left of him, and he'll have to wait to see what happens and see if he can hook into something over his head.
Back aboard with Diego Negri and Fritjof Clean. Remember, they won race number 1 of the championship, and then for race 2, just 4 days ago, they were over the line and UFD, so they were disqualified. And Fritjof was telling us that that was pure kind of ambition and greed, but here they are. What can you tell us about where they are on the racetrack, Rob?
Yeah, it looks like the breeze is shifting a little bit now. Perhaps a little bit of right shift has dropped the O'Learys back a little bit. Some boats are coming back on starboard from the middle. Perhaps we're seeing a little bit of a right-hander, and it's really switching the top 5 or 6 around all the time as some of these shifts are coming down the track.
Well, let's get back on board with Diego Negri and Fritjof Clean. There they go, Diego just getting his feet under the hiking strap, getting himself into a really good position at the back of the boat there. Fritjof will be right over their side. They have a little hook and a strap prop that they hook into the crews.
They've got a harness. The crews wear a harness, and there's a short line that attaches onto the side of the boat, and then they've got both ankles hooked into a double hiking strap, which is set at a very, very loose setting and allows the crews, we can see here in this shot, the crew to sling their body right down over the side of the boat and help the boat stay upright. So, but the helm doesn't wear a harness, but the crew has to, otherwise there's just no way that you'll be able to support your body in that position for this length of time.
Well, I hope you're enjoying the coverage on YouTube and Facebook. I've got my little Facebook page open, Christoph Berger, hi to you, and Aj Corey, fun watching, enjoying, and we're really enjoying being here on this race number 8. Eric Tadas Lenner, there you go, wow, and quite a few Polish, Peter Weig, he's cheering on Mateusz Kuzniewicz and Leo Lungo. Well, good on you, all you guys watching from around the world, around Europe and around the world. And keep it coming. Tell us where you're watching from on the Facebook and YouTube feeds.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see so many people tuned into us here. Virtual Eye again has the left-hand side of the course favoured. Xavier Rohart, double world champion, double Olympic medalist, featuring strongly as he did in the first beat of the first race today. And bow number 25 here is Pavlo Bondar and Konstantin Maltsev from the Ukraine, just tacking onto starboard and heading back towards the left a little bit. And fresh conditions, Digby, you know, looks like 16 knots of breeze maybe, and tough hiking conditions again. And you know, this upwind leg is, I'm not sure exactly, but it must be 1.82 miles, and there'll be tired bodies when they get ashore tonight, I can tell you.
Well, the race committee, if you heard a little ping there, that's my WhatsApp group with the race committee, so they're feeding us information. They're telling us confirmation just now that they are not going to hold a third race today, Prof, so that's probably a relief to the sailors, because this is going to be quite punishing for them. And they're also telling us that bow 88, the Germans Nils Ubert and Kai Schnellbacher, bow 88 were UFD black flag, so they are disqualified. I'm sorry if you've tuned in to cheer them on, but this race won't count for that German duo.
On board here again now, Diego and Fritzoff heading back for another little nibble at the left-hand side of the course. And it's interesting, perhaps we've seen a little bit of a right phase of breeze coming through, because Augie Diaz and Bruno Prada and some of the guys to the right of the left-hand pack have come through. And
look at Grail and Trush, they're looking really tasty right now.
And quite extraordinarily, because 5 minutes ago they were well back. So there must be some right-hander has come through here, which has really pulled the right-hand side of the course up. So these guys, you know, the question now is at what point do they tack and try and get back and try and connect with the rest of the fleet. So, you know, sometimes the breeze can be on the left and the right on the right, and it depends which one wins.
Well, Pedro Trush, he's ranked 4th on the SSL rankings. His nickname, Lars calls him Boulder. I'm not sure why, but he won the SSL final last December with George Zarif, the great Finn sailor, and he's sailing with Lars Grail, who is ranked 7th on the SSL ranking, Star World Champ in 2015. So an all-round super sailor, Lars Grail, bow number 4. He lost his leg, and you can see that he's hiking with one leg, which is even more punishing. Prof, he lost it in 98 by a rib engine going over him after his Tornado medals, Olympic medals.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough to sail a star as it is, but what Lars manages to do is quite extraordinary. Bow number 84, just tacking back onto starboard. Interesting to see now whether Lars will stand on port or whether he will tack back onto starboard and try and reconnect with the fleet on the left-hand side.
I think this is going to be a great crossing now as they engage each other. Lars Grail, I daren't use the phrase rolling the dice and taking a flyer. I would not
Yeah, on board here now with Robert Scheidt. Definitely we've seen some right-hand breeze come through, which has dropped the left side of the fleet. Augie Diaz, former Star World Champion, with Bruno Prada, the great star crew from Brazil who had so much success with Robert Scheidt, has come on the virtual eye, is in first or second. So really, really interesting now, Digby. Impossible to call which side is ahead. To my mind, it looks like the left, but very, very difficult to say from here in the studio. But for my money, right now, the left is probably going to play through a little stronger.
Well, we could try and catch up with Shirley Robertson. Shirley, you're on our camera boat. Shirley, I guess you're heading up towards the right, but Virtual Eye is giving Lars Grail a bit of a shout at this.
Oh, Digby, yes, we are on, we're further to the right-hand side of the fleet, so from where I am, I can't tell. I mean, the boat that's really dominated, I guess, from the start has been the French duo of Rohart and Ponson, and you know, they're fast in the breeze as well, and they got off to an amazing start. But I think, yeah, you have to be slightly cautious about that left-hand side. And in the last race, we saw some of the boats perhaps lose out by going a little bit too far, particularly at the top, and a little bit less wind under the cliff. So we'll see. But as we get to the top of the race course, you know, it's flatter water. It's a little bit lighter. It's a slightly different style of sailing than we see back at the start line when they're racing in chop and more wind. But it's going to be tight, Digby.
Thanks, Shirley. Well, she mentioned Rohart and Ponceau, who are playing a clever tactical game, I would say, Prof, by not going furthest to the left, just staying in the middle to play their way up in the middle of the cone. Virtual Eye will be able to show us where they are geographically on the racetrack. You can see to the bottom left of our screen, there's Rohart and Ponceau, Keard Lopez outside, Negri and Clean further out.
Nice
Grail Truche at the bottom.
Yeah, nice positioning from Xavier and Ponceau here, because you know they're underneath the port ley line. They're probably a little bow forward on the boats on their hip, and that's a really nice slot to be in. Because if breeze goes right, they can tack across, and breeze goes left, it might pull them up towards the ley line and cause the boats to windward of them to overlay. So really, really smart upwind leg from the French right now, and it looks that they are drawing ahead of the boats that are coming in from the right hand side. So initially it's looking like Rohart, possibly from a selection of either Keard, possibly the O'Leary's. Hard to say which ones are going to be closest to the French right now, but I would say the French right now looking to lead into this top mark, but lovely positioning from Xavier and Alexis.
Absolutely perfect. And one of the great, if you're a fleet racer, Virtual Eye is giving us a little hand and helping us kind of understand where it is good to be strategically on the racetrack. And in that spot where Rohart and Ponceau is, they can call the ley line much, much closer towards the top mark, whereas you see top of screen, some of the boats there will have overstood, and on the other ley line as well, some of the boats overstanding there, but Rohart and Ponceau can judge it perfectly. We're about to see them tack over onto starboard. Our camera boat is now near that top mark, so we'll see them tack. Here they go. They are now going to be tacking, I think, Prof, to that top mark. I think we're looking right straight down the barrel from the top mark, and there I reckon they're making it.
Yeah, looks like they've got a nice lead, 20 meters or so ahead of Keard. Can't see if this shot is taken from the windward mark. If it is, then they're laying, but it's a nice covering move for them to tack back onto starboard, to look after the left-hand side of the course, and then tack back onto port and lead into the top mark.
Meanwhile, Keard and Lopez will be attacking them from just behind Di Stefano and Bartoletti in the mix there, as I'm not sure where we're looking from now.
Yeah, Schooner here on starboard, you know, out towards the starboard ley line, coming in from the hard right-hand side. Could have been worse. I thought they were a lot further back. So they won't look too bad.
Now back out to Shirley at the top mark. Over to you, Shirley.
We're right at the top mark, just watching the French duo of Xavier Rohart and Ponson go around. I mean, what a leg they have had. Won the start, won the leg, and have a lovely little cushion. Paul Caillard will come round in second place, 50 metres perhaps behind. So a great start for the French pairing. And also Caillard, what a day he has had. He really needed to get some good results today, and he certainly delivered.
Well, the O'Leary's in the mix there, just going around bow 666 right now, and they're just ahead of the Mazura Barak duo from Croatia, and they're followed by Augie Diaz and Bruno Prada going around that top mark.
Yeah, cracking up winds there from the O'Leary's too, just getting around there in third slot after Paul Caillard. But a real marker from Caillard that he's back on form now, following his third place in the first race today, and fast up
Negri and Clean around there in the top 6, 7th position there, and a switch off Clean. Frida is getting set for the final run down towards the mark. Sorry, not the final run, the first run.
Yeah, and the call here is obviously whether you bear away and stand on starboard at the offset mark.
Look at that crowd up there, Prof.
Big pile up here. You know, approaching here in Portac is absolutely impossible, Digby. I mean, you just got to get onto starboard 10 lengths from the mark. Bow 12 here, tacking in there, lucky to have any space, and it's a highly risky manoeuvre coming in here on Portac because you've so little air and so little room in bow 5.
Oh, the collision and contact, 83, hitting the bounce. I think that was bow 5. Torvald Mirsky pulling all his match racing experience into play. Did you see that? Over to you, Shirley.
Digby, no, I didn't see that, but it's hectic, isn't it, at this top mark, particularly in the middle of the fleet. It's so close, particularly today.
Well, that was fairly dramatic scenes, quite a lot of bumping and grinding going on, Prof, into the top mark, and fabulous that we caught former world match racing champion Torvald Mirsky getting pretty aggressive around that top mark. Good on you.
Well, aggressive is one way of putting it, Digby.
Yeah, all right.
You know, punchy is another way of putting it. Approaching on Portac is not for the faint-hearted, and if you do, you've got to be really careful that you don't infringe and foul a boat on starboard tack, because once you're inside the 3 boat lengths to the circle to the windward mark, the racing rules of sailing are stacked against you coming in on port. So you've got to really be clever and sure of your positioning, otherwise you could get yourself into hot water. So
great stuff, Prof.
Yeah,
for race number 8 of the Star European Championship and SSL Breeze Grand Slam. We woke up this morning and we saw a bit of a dull, misty day, but the wind is coming in. It's a northerly, and now these guys are on their downwind leg.
Yeah, and some of them just stood on starboard just for a short period of time, which is kind of smart. That just clears your air from the kind of the light patch underneath the offset. The boat's sailing to the offset leg, but most boats now jibing onto port for the long port jibe down to the gate. I'd expect that there is a jibe at the end, and but we have some of the mid-fleet boats still standing on starboard, but the leaders on port now. So at the moment it's still Rohart and Ponso leading down this first row.
Well, Prof, we can take a quick moment to replay that top mark rounding, the first top mark rounding. Bow 83, Sturkley and Gouda inside. And
yeah, you can see about 28 here is more or less head to wind and stopped. And when you're in that position, you just go sideways.
Good fun at the top mark, but you've got more than 90 boats really fighting for points in the European Championship and SSL Breeze Grand Slam. Now they're heading down on the first lap of the course,
And we're back aboard with Robert Scheidt and Henry Björning.
Yeah, Robert just looking behind there, checking his lane, making sure he's got a nice clear corridor of breeze, adjusting the jib sheet, looking at his ley line underneath the boom, assessing where the gate is and deciding, you know, is he going to stand on this jibe or jibe away.
Bit of audio. Interested to hear their communication. Our Brazilian friends, you don't understand the Portuguese.
You can see with Robert, here they go. They're just about to jibe, lean in, and perhaps his crew is come back. No, they're not jibing. His crew's come back just to help pump the main sheet a little bit, so maybe a little bit of an increase in pressure, and he wants to get the weight out of the bow of the boat.
Well, that was Robert Scheidt and Henry Björning. They started today overall leaders. They are 1 point now behind Krasnodevich and Melo, and he'll be fighting to retain his top position in the qualifying rounds.
Look at this, Digby, look at this. I think that the O'Learys here might have snuck into second on the water past Caird. That's what the virtual eye is looking like anyway. But most importantly for them, in the projected points, that means that they're now nipping into the top 10. But they're duking it out in those projected points standings with Merkel back. So really, really, really strong showing from the O'Learys again. And Krasnodevich currently sitting in first.
Well, compare and contrast from the shots we just had on board, looking at Robert Scheidt with Paul Caird. There's quite a bit of age difference, but there's a different style, I would say, Prof.
Yeah. I mean, Paul, pretty static, probably forward and aft compared to Robert. Paul's got both main sheet tails in his hand for really direct control again, and just balancing the boat to make sure that there's absolutely neutral helm going downwind and minimise the drag on the rudder.
Well, that's where they are on the racetrack. They're in third spot in this race, and we're looking at Diego Negri with Fritjof clean. He's talking to the guys behind him, saying, hey man, look, come on, don't ruin our regatta.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important that you communicate to the other competitors when you're going down a run like this, so that you play the big game and don't get into a private battle with one other boat.
Yeah, well, Negri, you know, it's all part of the game, isn't it? You know, there's sometimes quite a bit of chit-chat across from boat to boat. But Shirley, I understand you are right next to bow number 1, Paul Caird.
Yes, we are right here, Digby. I mean, the three boats, the Irish boat, the French, and Paul Caird, who were right beside. I mean, they've got quite a jump, quite a lead over the rest of the fleet. Very impressive that they've managed to do that. It's quite flat water, and so there's sort of not a lot to do. The waves are all at the bottom of the course, but very different techniques. Some of them have their rigs for the forward. Some of them have the crews standing up just to get a little bit of roll going. But yeah, the three boats, it's very impressive how much of a cushion they've managed to get.
Paul Caird, a Star World Champion in '88, and he's ranked 4th in the SSL rankings at the moment, sailing with Arthur Lopez from Sao Paulo, and Arthur is 2017 European champ, and they are in the running.
Well, it looks to me now that the O'Learys are having a cracking downwind leg here. You can see them on the left of the screen, and it's very, very hard to say looking at it on video, but on the virtual eye and on the video, it may look as if the O'Learys have slipped into second place. But it's a very, very close battle now between the O'Learys and Caird and Lopez for second, heading into this gate. The French comfortable right now, but we will see what happens as they close into the gate.
Well, while that battle goes on, to the front, a little further back, Krasnodevich and Melo, the Portuguese-Polish duo, who
had just won that last race to take them to the top of the leaderboard. So they're in amongst it. They're in touch with the leaders at the moment. But what a spread, Prof, across the fleet going down towards this bottom gate.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see. You know, there's some have jibed early, some have stood on starboard, so there's a big spread across the run. And here's Fritzoff and Diego just rolling the boat into windward, jibed onto starboard, so coming back out towards the cliffs. They look as if they got nice pressure there, and I'm not sure where they are. They may be around about the 9th slot, but they're looking nice set up there. Jib a long way up in the air. The course jib halyard releasing the course jib. Cunningham pulls the jib up in the air and gets the boat rolling to windward a lot and gets the jib projected a long way out over the windward side of the boat. So you can see the boat rocking, and every time it rocks, the mainsail leech rocks up in the air and propels the boat forward. And you can see Fritzoff there doing his usual standing on his tippy toes, and that's just helping the boat rock down the run.
Well, they're in
quick
third overall in the projected points. They're near the top of their game here in this race number 8, and now they're not allowed to use their physical body weight or kinetic energy because the flag isn't flying, but we could see Frida just rolling away there with the waves. Now back towards the front, a real fight for first position as we look back through the bows and stern towards the overall regatta leader, Kuznidovic and Mello. And the jury are right there on the water, keeping a close eye on the competitors.
Yeah, the jury have been relatively quiet during this regatta, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any observations in that regard. But right now, it's neck and neck between Caird Lopez and the O'Learys. Right at this point, the O'Learys are further to the west of Caird, which means that they'll be set up for an inside rounding on the right-hand gate, and that might well be the strategy that the O'Learys are planning. But neck and neck right now between the US boat and the Irish boat. Hard to call which boat is going to be ahead as we get down to the gate.
Well, there's a fantastic battle throughout the fleet, but right at the front we have Rohart and Ponceau beginning to pull away over 40 metres ahead of Caird Lopez, with the O'Learys almost neck and neck with the American-Brazilian duo. That's going to be absolutely great to see down as we run towards the bottom gate.
Yeah, Virtual Eye has Caird ahead by 10 metres or so, Digby. They are converging on opposite jibes, and Caird will be on starboard, and at the moment Virtual Eye has him crossing the O'Learys. Here's the French going around. Not a great rounding for them, to be honest with you. And we have Caird going around here, and here come the Irish team, and better rounding from them, much better rounding. Got to sheet that main in, sheet it down to the deck, get the runners on, and there's the French
sliding across.
Yeah, they've just tacked off there. You know, that's an interesting move, because you know they
probably saw a space.
Well, they just, you know, I'm not sure. You know, you need to settle. You know, get your settings settled into the upwind leg and get fully dialed in before you throw a tack. And if you tack now, you're tacking back into the bad air of all the downwind, the boats coming downwind.
So here it gets super busy because there are about 5 boats about to simultaneously jibe around the bottom mark. We're on board with Negri, Ivan Melleby, Josh Redkin right on their stern, also in the top 10, and more boats hardening up for the upwind leg. De Boer and Conchalves there, bow 32. They're in the hunt in race number 8.
That's Heiko de Boer, who had another sailor who had a potentially horrific accident when he got the jib stick in his left eye, and is actually effectively just got no vision from his left eye right now while that injury heals. So, but he's having a great race here, probably you know, not too far outside the top 15.
Eric Doyle left a picture. just ahead of the Benamati and Rosini duo from Italy. Who had such a great race, number 7. They're in the top 20, happily. It's the mid-markers kind of piling around the bottom gate.
It requires a huge amount of energy to switch from downwind mode to upwind mode at the bottom mark. The rig has got to be pulled back, horse jib handled release, horse jib Cunningham on, jib tracks in, main in, out haul on, runners back, check stay on, upper runner on, pipe. The list is long in these starboards when you go from going downwind to upwind.
Harder for the crew, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the helmsman's got to sheet the main in, which is no mean feat, but principally the helmsman's got to pull the outhaul on and sheet the main in and steer. But the crew's got to do the other 7 or 8 controls, and the biggest one being pulling the rig back, which is a massive amount of short-term explosive physical effort. So yeah, it's a tough job.
Well, choppy and busy down at the bottom gate. Still fairly close for race number 8, but where are these guys?
So this is Mateus and Federico, you know, working the middle right-hand side like we saw them in the first race today. Wonder if they're looking to try and pick something up there like they did in that race. And it's
rapidly. Okay, so they're heading up the middle, heading off to the right with Misura and Barak from Croatia. Rohard and Ponceau poking a nose ahead. They can now dictate where they want to go.
Yeah. I mean, they've got Kayard and the O'Learys hipped up to windward of them. You know, you've got to go somewhere, and you know, they're exposed obviously if the breeze goes left, but they have a little bit of a cushion. Generally at the top of the upwind, we've seen the left play through, so I would suspect that Xavier and Pierre are probably looking for the first nibble of a right-hander to tack back onto port and come across.
Well, on board with Diego Negri and Fritjof clean. You can still see that it's breezy and choppy, plenty of cloud cover, so we've had having two solid races in the qualifying round of the SSL Breeze Grand Slam on Lake Garda, combined with the Star Class European Championship.
Yeah, you know, here we have Rohart and Ponceau here looking really, really sweet. I wonder if the breeze is just starting to go right a little bit. We've seen it kind of mid-right, halfway up the beat, and then it play back to the left at the top of the upwind. And probably the French won't go a lot further, I would say. They're probably looking to get back reasonably soon, but nice, you know, beautiful positioning from the French. Really, really lovely.
Massive spread, Prof, across the lake, left and right. Rohard, Ponceau, as they look up the racetrack, are heading towards the right, as are Misura and Barak from Croatia.
Yeah, these guys have shown a lot of form. Actually, they've really had some fantastic starts and upwinds, and they may not be in the overall running, but even if you look at them there on screen as we just saw them, you know, hiking hard, sailing the boat nice and flat, good sail shape, nice flat sails, and you know, they obviously know what they're doing.
Well, Marin Misura, he was a great Finn sailor, Finn Junior World Champ, 2003, helming. And second at the ISAF Youth Worlds twice. Class act in Croatia.
Yeah, you can see here that, you know, the jib is sheeted nice and flat. You know, main is probably 75 mil open at the back between the blocks, and that means that the mast rake is just set correctly, and you know, not a whole lot of rudder off centre, so the boat's nicely in balance.
Well, they started today in 12th overall, and looking at the projected points, if you're looking at the left-hand side of our screen, these are the overall standings, including their present position in race number 8, so that if they finish in this order, Mirach,
Missouri and Barach are in 11th overall. Doyle and Infeliz are in 10th. Leary's in 9th, so they're within the top 10. But if you look at the points between 10th and 11th, there's 4 points and then another 5 to Allard van der Huizen. Grail and Trusch are in connection here. Now we do know, Prof.
That's great information, actually, Dick.
We do know that the race committee is fully intending to run another full qualifying race tomorrow morning. I suspect that it'll only be one qualifying race before they go into the top 10 with the quarters, semis and finals.
It's going to be an early start too, Digby. We've seen on the WhatsApp the race is scheduled for 8:30 tomorrow morning, so it's going to be early night for these sailors tonight, which will be pretty welcome, because I would imagine they're going to be pretty tight. But here's a cracking shot of the French one upwind. Beautiful boat trim. Jib sheeted hard and flat, jib cars fully inboard, boom on the centerline, out all hard, and the camber stripes on the sails are just showing beautiful flat sail shapes going upwind.
Well, Prof, I'm just going to dial in quickly to some of the comments on Facebook. People watching from around the world. I saw somebody from Texas and Austin just now, and people cheering on the French and the Brazilians. Dave Quinn, fantastic coverage, thanks. Dave Quinn.
Dave.
Oh, he's your buddy, he's been paying. Gianluca, he's telling us the aura is increasing, the southerly breeze, but we're in the Pele right now, the northerly breeze. It's raining in Rio de Janeiro, says Pedro Lenchi. It's great. Watching from Australia, Shane. Hi, Shane, good to see you out there. And Leslie from Antigua. So, Kemar, Texas, Brad Scott, Norway, Chris Skogan, watching from Norway, watching from Miami, Fritz Müller. So Brazil as well. Welcome to all of you from around the world watching this fantastic piece of racing on Lake Garda, race number 8.
Yeah, cracking to see all those people listening in, and big shout out to Dave Quinn, just won the Irish Laser Masters Championship the other day. So yeah, here we have bow number 62, which is the Marin Missouri, and they're looking really, really good. They're on the cusp of the top 10, and I had thought that they were out of the running, but they're obviously, their consistency is paid, and they're just looking to get over the edge into the top 10.
Well, Shirley, you are actually on the boat with our camera, staring down the barrel, looking at the Croatians Marin Missouri and Toncho Barach. What can you tell us, Shirley?
Yes, Digby, we're right at the front of the fleet, just level with the French leaders. And as Prof was saying, you know, I bet on board they're desperately looking for a little bit of a shift that they can get back into that left-hand side. And actually the opposite has happened, that the boats have slightly wound up inside them. And actually, I don't know if you can see, actually they've just tacked. They could wait no longer. They had to get back in and consolidate. So a different beat, I think, this one to the one we saw before. You know, they've mostly been about playing the shifts in the middle, and we'll see if Xavier's patience has paid off as he goes for the cross with Kayard.
Robertson out there following the race as we watch Marin Missouri and Toncho Barach fighting to stay in the top 10 club in race number 8. We're approaching the top mark now. It's about to get pretty interesting inside that ice cream cone under that top mark, and our cameras are taking us to Torbar Mirsky, who won the Match Racing World Championships a few years back, a couple of years ago in 2017. And he's a great tactician and a skipper in those M32 race boats. Super different from the heavier and slower Star Keel boats, but we saw him tap one of his competitors coming in on port just under the top mark in race number 7. But never mind, you know, that's all part of the game. We are privileged to see Torvar Mirsky out here having a go.
Yeah, you know, it's it is a risk that you take coming into the top mark on port. and you just got to make sure that if you foul somebody, you do your turns. The danger for here now, looking at Virtual Eye, Kushnerovic and the O'Learys. O'Learys still looking just ahead, but Kushnerovic pushing hard now, probably into fourth on the water, something like that. And here's Doug Smith and Brian O'Mahony from the USA, and nice boat trim from them actually. Nice sail trim, sails beautifully flat, and good hiking technique. And they're looking nicely set up. They must have seen us watching because Brian's just put his hands above his head. I wonder how long he'll be able to last.
Well, great aerial view from the drone. I've got to tell you, Prop, I love this drone angle. It's so good for sailing.
It's beautiful. I mean, that is a classic upwind shot of a real upwind machine.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a 12 meter, it could be an ISCC boat. It really just shows the beauty and the aerodynamic efficiency of these boats as they go upwind. And it's a wonderful asset to have, the drone.
Well, the other bird's eye view that we have is Virtual Eye looking over the lake and flying us around the racetrack. Who are they going to pick now? Kaboom! We're in with the Star Sailors League top-ranked skipper and crew. Ivan Melleby from Norway, Josh Redkin from the USA. Now, these guys, barefoot, go on then.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Josh. I can see his bare feet there. He must be a man of steel because it is not warm out there, and the waters of Lake Garda are not warm. So he's to have no footwear on in these conditions is fairly tough. And that's Elvin Melleby, who has won the Star Worlds himself
2 years ago, 2017, with Josh.
Olympian in his own right. So, yeah, coming back in from the right-hand side.
Okay, well, Ivan Melleby actually just missed out on the medals at the 2012 Olympics. Fourth, that terrible spot for Olympic campaigners just off the podium.
The leather medal.
The what medal?
The leather medal.
The leather medal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you prefer to finish fifth and fourth.
Negri, Diego Negri with Fritjof clean overall projected on the points on the left-hand side. We're seeing the overall points, not this race 8. They're in third position. They're going to be pretty happy with that. They're some 10 points behind Shai Björning. There's a great battle for the overall points. Look at that. Tied on 22. Kuznidovic and Mello. So every little place that these guys gain or lose is going to make a huge difference to their prospects of leaping to either the semi-final or the final or into the quarters.
Yeah, it's really interesting now, isn't it? It's all about the points tot now.
Every single boat.
Absolutely. Every single cross matters, every single dip, every mark rounding, every meter has a big effect. There's a little cushion at this point between 10th on 86 and 11th on 90, switching around. Actually, it was 10 points, but it's just switched again now. And here we've got Benamati on starboard tack. 1991, hard to believe, 28 years ago he won the Star Worlds, the flamboyant Italian.
Well, he is safely at the moment within the top 10 with Ambrosini in 7th overall. Remember these points on the left-hand side, if you're watching the overall projected points, which include all 7 races and where they are on the racetrack right now. Our friends from Virtual Eye doing some fantastic calculations for us on the fly.
Yeah, I know it's really, really good having this data on the screen, because that's the most important thing right now is how the points tally is shaping up. And Kushnerovic and Scheidt, it's switching between them as to who is going to end up first and second on points going to the final 2 races of qualification.
Well, a little tack there, right under our drone by the Italian skipper, and up we go towards the top mark. If we jump to Virtual Eye, we can see where Scheidt and Björning are. in relation to Kuznierovic and Mello. So Scheid and Björning going way above, a little bit above the court lay line as we move our way around in virtual. There at the bottom left of our screen, Negri clean, and there's Kuznierovic and Mello. So fairly soon, Prof, those two are going to be converging, and that is going to be fairly tough.
Well, we've just seen the French guys now just tapping onto port, and they've got a very, very comfortable lead, and they've sailed a superb race, and they're going to lead into this top mark. And Caird is going to be second, and Caird is looking after the O'Leary brothers by making sure that he doesn't leave them off the hook. But ominously, there's Robert Scheid coming in from the left, and I'm not sure, and it's going to be between himself and Kuznierovic, as I said, first and second. But here comes Xavier and Pierre rounding the top mark, super smooth, and they'll be well pleased with a beautifully sailed second beat. And here's Caird and Arthur Lopez. Arthur with the hat on, Caird
so
hat
steady.
On. Well, it just goes to show how cold it is as well. People still wearing the headgear here in Lake Garda in May. Very, very chilly. What a beautiful tap from Lopez straight out onto the straps to accelerate around the top mark. Weight on the high side to help the bear away, and that really helps just accelerate the boat around the top mark if you can keep the boat flat for that bear away.
Well, that is almost guaranteeing them the top 10 spot, I would say, a place in that top 10 club. And the story in just a second is going to be who actually is top of this top. And it's Kuznierovic ahead of Diego Negri and Fritjof Clean. So they have taken chunks out of Scheid and Björning, with the O'Learys coming around just behind.
Yeah, it must have been a right-hander that's just pulled the guys coming from the middle right through, and just looks like the O'Learys got unstuck there a little bit on the hard left. So, you know, breeze must be switching left and right, oscillating a little bit, and you know, that's just the danger, I guess, if you just get to the corner a little bit early in these shifty conditions and you run out of options.
Well, downwind on board with Diego Negri and Fritjof Clean. Back virtually to the top mark, and there is Scheid and Björning heading around just ahead of Augie Diaz and Bruno Prada, and around the edge, bow 4, Lars Grael, Pedro Trusch. Just settling in 61, Hubert Merkelbach and Marcus Coy. Hubert Merkelbach, Marcus Coy, they are fighting to stay within the top 10 overall. They're 10th in this race, and fairly soon we'll come back to the overalls and see how they are surviving in the competition to stay in the top 10.
Yeah, looks like that right-hander just came in towards the end. Everybody jibing onto port, and I'm not quite sure where Robert Scheid and Henry Björning are right now. It seems to be lost them on the virtual line. I didn't see them on the VT going around. But Kuznierovic has come in from that middle right-hand side, as he did in the first race, to get around there in third. But Rohart looking comfortable in first, and it just shows that the racecourse is relatively open. And even though we would have thought that the top left of the course paid, you can just still come unstuck if the breeze just fades into the water.
Well, here's Robert Scheid getting himself set on this downwind leg. He is going to be clawing every boat, getting information from his crewman Henry, standing up by the mast.
Yeah, I mean, Scheid and Björning got a little unstuck there on the left-hand side, and they were up in around fourth position, and just looked as if the shift went against them towards the end of that second beat.
Well, that's interesting. For this final leg, Scheid and Björning in 8th in race number 8. They'll be attacking everybody on that leaderboard, on that little list. Missoura, Barak and the O'Learys heading downwind, trying to claw back the overall lead of the qualifying rounds of the Star European Championship and the SSL Breeze Grand Slam. Here is the overall, and Kuznirovic and Melo have done themselves a huge favour there on that last leg. Now they were neck and neck on points, and now there's 5 places between them in this race, and 5 points of Shai Pioning a little bit back. Negri clean on 38 overall points, so they are safely in the top 10, as are Kayard and Lopez. Rohart and Ponceau winning this race. That moves them up to 5th overall. Benamati and Ambrosini are also doing extremely well in 6th. Loof and Fatih. We haven't seen much of Freddie Loof in this particular race, but they are consistently there in 7th overall. And here's the sort of danger zone. Melaby, Revkin, Merkelbach and Coy are in 9th. They are doing them, having a great day. And the O'Learys just by 1 point in the top 10 club, and then out of the top 10, Doyle and Infeliz, Missouri, Barak, another 3 points behind, and then Santoni and Lambertenghi, who had such a great race, number 7.
It's, I tell you, DB, it is so close, the points at that top 10 cut-off. It's really probably going to be down to the final 2 races in terms of who qualifies. But interestingly, just that wind shift at the top of that second beat, pulling Kuznirovic and Melo in ahead by a few slots ahead of Scheidt, has now just popped the Portuguese team into 1st overall, and obviously that coveted by into the final. 2 races yet to go in the qualification series, if we do have 2 races. Start at 8:30 tomorrow morning, but we're really very tight now at the top of the top 10, and at that really critical cusp of 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th overall, even 14th. It's super tight.
Well, Negri and Clean, they are almost neck and neck with Kuznirovic and Melo, behind Kayard and Lopez, with Rohart and Ponceau some 30 seconds ahead in the lead, coasting down towards the finish line.
Lovely trim here from the French. You know, crew weight forward just after the mast, and Xavier just tiller bang in the centre, boat rocking over and backwards, set up to rock, not excessively but just a little bit to help the boat down the waves, and they're looking super smooth there. Xavier not looking behind very much, which is always a good sign that you're not feeling under any pressure from the boat behind. Kayard and Lopez looking solid there in 2nd, and they'll be really pleased at this return to form for them today after the previous 3 races, which were a little bit off their best. So yeah, they'll be pleased. That big battle though for 3rd in this race. Diego Negri and Fritzoff Clean have come through strongly, as have Kuznirovic and Melo, and the O'Learys just a little bit adrift there now in 6th, but again that will be the 4th top 10 place in a row for the O'Learys, so they'll be disappointed to have left that 3rd slip from that right-hand wind shift up the 2nd beat, but still in all it'll be the 4th top 10 in a row for them if they stay where they are.
Well, Kayard and Lopez, they seem to have a little bit of a turn of speed, attacking the French duo in 1st, so they're not going to have it all their own way, Rohart and Ponceau. But interestingly to see Ponceau, the crewman, looking forward, as you mentioned.
Yeah, you know, you can almost judge it in the body language when you're looking at a boat in the lead. If they're starting to feel under pressure, they'll start to look behind and maybe start to make a tactical move to position themselves more tactically between the finish line and their opposition. But if they're not looking behind, it means that they're pretty comfortable. It's a nice position to be in, to cover from to leeward and ahead, and that just means that if Kayard jibes, that they can jibe and cover them from to leeward and ahead, which is a nice spot to be in, just to keep your air clear, but to make sure that they can't wriggle past you.
Well, Shirley Robertson, no mean sailor herself, is out there on the water. Let's catch up with you, Shirley.
Hello, Digby. Yeah, we're right at the front of the fleet, and what a battle it is. I'm watching the battle for 3rd between the Polish team and the Italians, Negri. that's going to come right down to the wire. They're trying pretty hard. It's getting more and more dynamic as they progress down this run. And I was just thinking back to the interview with Matthias after the last race, which they won. You know, he is solidly focused on getting into the finals in first place, which of course means you're straight to the final. You don't have to do the quarters or the semis. You are straight in. And so, you know, he's fired up, he's pumped up, he's performing well. They're sailing smart and sailing fast. And, you know, his motivation for sure is to get as many points between him and Robert Scheid so that he gets into that final in first place.
Well, I think Shirley has nailed it there. It's going to be great between Kuznerovic and Mello and Negri and Clean. There, that fight down towards the finish. We see Rohard, Ponso, Cayard, Lopez, they're clear. I think they're fairly safe. I know Cayard is looking behind him, right to Kuznerovic and Mello, putting the attack on, but there's...
Yeah, it's hard to see. Sometimes the virtual eye drops the connection, and then we've got to wait for it to reattach. But right now, for sure, Kuznerovic might have a little bit of a pace advantage on Cayard down on the downwind legs, but I would expect Cayard to protect fairly hard to ensure that he looks after the second place.
Well, okay, this is the run to the finish of race number 8. We're on board with Negri and Clean, Diego Negri, the helmsman. They are in 4th spot in this race. Behind Kuznerovic and Mello, Cayard, Lopez, Rohard, Ponso out in the lead. And you can see the Italians attacking Kuznerovic there. And now we have the 2 boats. Actually, no, the 2-boat shot here. Here's a really, really good battle going on here now.
Yeah, what we have here on the right-hand side of the screen is the Italian boat, Diego Negri and Fritzof Clean, and really, really pushing hard against Kuznerovic and Federico Melo. And they're pretty close. What we have them is about 20 meters apart, but again, Fritzof on his tippy toes, and they're looking a lot more kinetic in the boat than Matthias. Matthias looking to leeward, not looking that comfortable. Federico Melo looking a little bit static, and it is just the chat is that Diego Negri is one of the fastest downwind sailors here. So a really, really, really big battle here for second, and the O'Learys as well bow down. Oh, gotta get the weight back so you don't dig the bow, and just pop the bow out and get the boat ripping again. Here we go, jibe coming over. Robert flicking the pole first, and pole set up on the starboard side, heel to leeward, heel to windward, boom across, and jibs filling, and that helps pull the bow down out of the jibe and keeps you surfing down the wave. So sometimes you pop the pole across first, or sometimes you do it second, and nice jibe out of the O'Learys there, and we will see how they set up, but it looks like...
Well, they're in 6th in this race, which is going to do their prospects no end of harm. Look at that. They're in the top 10 projected overall. They're 10th on 89 points, so that is exactly where they want to be. Merkelbach and Coy are in 9th position. Meleby, Revkin overall in 8th, and overall Luth up there in 7th. Back to the finish of race number 8, and the race leaders, Rohard and Ponso, comfortably over 70 meters ahead of second place, Cayard and Lopez. A real battle between Kuznerovic and Negri, the 3rd and 4th placed sailors, but fair dues, credit to the French duo. This is their only bullet so far in the race as they slide through towards victory. They had a 2nd in race number 4, a 4th in race number 5, and now they're going to take victory in race number 8.
Yeah, ice cool from Xavier and Pierre. Really, really smoothly sailed start to finish. as Shirley had pointed out, they had a majestic start out of the pin end and really took control of this race pretty early on. They extended a lot on the second beat, and they just needed to play it safe going down this run now.
Well, the overall story is that Scheidt and Björning have lost their overall lead in the standings by a few points to the Polish-Portuguese duo Kuznedovic and Mello, Federico Mello. But meters away, Shirley, you're right up there. You've got you could probably chat to Xavier Rohard right now, Shirley.
I probably could, Digby. I'm about 10 meters away from them, and they're already beginning to smile. I mean, this race was textbook execution, as Prof said. You know, they won the start and then controlled it, and even when there was a big wind shift, you know, sailed really smart. I can see them smiling from here.
Give them a wave.
They are delighted, Digby.
Oh, wonderful scenes. Well done, les Français, and you can see what that means to them. Pierre-Alexis Pinceau with Xavier Rohard coming in behind them. Diego Negri, Fritjof, clean, super close. I think Kayard and Lopez were ahead, and there's Kuznedovic going through the finish line of race number 8. Now they know that they're not going to have another race today, so they'll be able to make their way back towards the harbour and the dock. And a great result for the Dutch crew, Allard and Van der Hegen from the Netherlands, going through the finish line there and back towards the marina. So big scenes at the finish of race number 8. Scheidt and Björning, I think they are 6th, but they have given the overall lead to Kuznedovic and Mello. And if the points stay as they are, this means that they have the jump to the semi-finals, and the Polish-Portuguese duo will have the jump to the finals. How close is this, Prof, for the next bunch going through?
Yeah, it's just super close there. A few boats just rounding out the top 10 in the early teens. It'll be interesting to see when the results of that race come up on our screen, because we didn't quite get a sight on the line as the boats were coming across, cracking downwind from that Dutch team, and perhaps they had taken the O'Learys just towards the finish, and now they have the beat back to the club, which is never welcome after a tough day on the water that all the teams have had.
Well, Shirley has worked her magic yet again and is on board with the race winners from France, Rohard and Pinceau. Over to you, Shirley.
I'm getting quite good, Digby, at hopping on to stars. I don't know if I'd be any good at sailing them, but I could get on and off quite well. Big smiles on board this boat. I mean, that was a huge smile.
Yeah, finally it was important for us to show that we can win, we can be there for the final, we can be and everything, so that's very important.
It felt, just watching you, like it was perfect execution. I mean, you won the start and sailed smart. Does it feel like it's beginning to come together?
Yeah, it was the goal of the week to improve ourselves during races, to be ready for the final. So it was not a bit training, but it was the schedule for us to warm up during every race and to be ready at the end of the week.
I think you're not the only ones. I mean, watching the quality, I guess, and the intensity increase, particularly today, was quite something. I mean, how much harder has it got, and how much do you want to be in that final?
We really wanted to win the final. It's not yet done. It's more race tomorrow, but we made a huge step, and the lake is really promising. It's a real bridge Grand Slam, hiking almost all the time, fighting with the waves, fighting with the wind. So it's very tough, very competitive. And every time when I look to the other guys, they are really strong, really competitive too. So it's going to be hard tomorrow.
It was good to watch. It's shaping up to be a great battle tomorrow. Digby.
Well, thanks, Shirley, and jubilant scenes with the French team, Rohart and Ponceau, and Prof, as the winners make their way back upwind, as you say, to the club. We've got confirmation from the race committee of the front 7 crossing the line there. So we know that Bao 8, Xavier Rohart. Then it was Paul Kayard. Then it was Kuznirovic and Mello. Then Diego Negri, Fritjof, Clean. And then Bao 18, Thomas Allert, Gert van der Heugen in 5th position. 66, your compatriots, the O'Learys, in 6th. They're going to be happy with that. In 7th, Robert Scheidt, Henry Björning. 9th position, the Croatians, Marin Misura and Tonko Barac.
Actually, cracking result for the Hungarian sailor in Bao 84. Tibor Tenki was telling me the other day that he's been sailing the Star since 1981, Digby, and I think he might have competed in the 92 Olympics in Barcelona, so he'll be thrilled with that top 10 position in that race.
Well, let's have a little review of race number 8, Prof. Here we go, onto the start line, the crucial start. I'm sure it's coming, Prof. We'll let them sort themselves out in the van.
As we saw in that start again, big bunch of the top guys down the port-hand side, but Xavier Rohart and Pierre-Alexis Ponceau, beautiful start out of that port end and took early control of that race and did a super job from the start to finish.
Right, we'll have another go. Good. That was a over the line early. General recall on our replay, so let's try the replay again. Boom, straight into the start, Prof.
Yeah, as we can see, you know, the start's getting so competitive now, not much midline sag, and really super indication of the quality of the fleet that there's just a line of bows coming across the side, coming across the line at the same time. So, you know, quite strong conditions, testing conditions, 15, 16 knots of breeze, and some of the boats broke to the right. And here we have on board Robert Scheidt initially working the left-hand side of that beat. Super hiking technique from them around the top mark. And I believe that we had the Rohart and Ponceau, you know, worked back into the middle of the race course, which is super positioning, and that allowed them to take advantage of any little right-hand shift to bring them back around the top mark. But they already had a nice little cushion on the second boat after that super first leg.
Kayard and Lopez going around, and then your Irish friends, 66, right behind them, and then it was the Croatians, Misura and Barac, in a great spot around that top mark.
Yeah, and they're knocking on the door of the top 10 as well, the Croatians, so they're really starting to show some form just around the top 10 type of position. So here we have Diego Negri and Fritjof Clean reaching out, and the offset leg can be tricky because you got to try and get around that top mark, especially if you're down the pack, and there's a lot of boats piling in there.
Bao 83, just wiggling in there, Prof.
I'm not sure.
Bumping into
I'm not sure if she's wriggling in. I think she's wriggling into the top mark. And the same with Torvar Miski, just bearing away around Bao 83. So,
I'm not surprised with over 90 boats, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
all close at that top mark.
It happens. I mean, nobody intentionally goes to foul anybody, but sometimes there's just, you know, there's just not enough, you know, too many boats and not enough water. So here's Paul Kayard, main sheet on the left-hand side, boat rocking, set up to rock downwind, and now we come down to Mark II, which is the first gate, and in the centre of the screen there, we've got Matej Kuznirovic and Federico Melo in bow number 6, but Rohart and Ponceau, nice downwind leg from them. Best leeward mark rounding actually from the O'Learys, and what we saw here is a sign of Xavier's growing confidence is that he tacked off onto port and headed back into the centre of the racecourse rather than committing himself to the left-hand side entirely of this second upwind leg. And lovely shot here, beautiful boat trim from the Croatians, and you can see that it's tough sailing conditions. And here's the French here, as we said during the race here.
Just extending, aren't they?
Well, just magnificent setup, you know, sails set up beautifully flat, low drag type of configuration, very little backwinding and ragging on the main. And, you know, if there's one person who knows how to set up the Star fast, it's Xavier Rohart. So up around the top mark, top of the second beat, and yeah, extended away on that second beat by just working in the middle of the upwind leg and coming back in on that nice little right-hand shift, and cracking tack there by Arthur Lopez straight out over the side onto the straps, and that's them going around, but quite compressed here now, kind of third, fourth, fifth, sixth coming around, and the left hand side at the top just came unstuck, and Robert Scheidt and Henry Bjonig and the O'Leary brothers were on the left at the top of that beat and lost a couple of slots to Kushnerovic, who came through as we've seen him do in the first race today. But here the French going downwind, very, very smooth, and not looking behind at all, and just yeah, sailed away to the finish. Nice shot of the O'Learys going downwind, and
great result for the O'Learys.
Super result, yeah. I mean, you know, they've now had 4 top 10 results, but it's really, really tight points wise at the 10th, and they're the French going across the line, and they'll be delighted with that, because they had some strong showings in the early part of some races and just quite couldn't put it away. So they'll be delighted now that they managed to you know, that they managed to get a grip on the race earlier on and extend away, as opposed to, you know, get gobbled up by the pack.
Good summary, Prof. Well done. Let's check out the overall leaderboard now, Prof.
This will be really interesting, DB, now, because this now is about the top 10 and how the points are playing out.
So let's go from 11 there. O'Leary and O'Leary, they are 3 points adrift of that 10th place. Merkelbach and Coy, the Germans, have made it in with their 13th in that last race. So good on them. Missouri Barak in 12th. They're a few points. They're 6 points off. We know that they're not going to run another race today, so it's all going to be tomorrow. But let's just work our way up from 10th. So that's the danger zone. If we have one more qualifying race tomorrow, Merkelbach, Coy right now are in. O'Leary's just 3 points adrift. Missouri and Barak are 9 points adrift of the top 10. Melleby and Revkin on 82 points. Snuck in there. And Luf and Fatih, not such a great day. They've had a 19th and a 21st. Their worst results, but not surprised. You know, Brian Fatih has taken an absolute beating. He got smashed by the bow of a boat into his back, so he's been carrying an injury for the past 4 days. Benamati and Ambrosini on 63 and 7th overall. That first place, their first bullet. Rohard and Ponceau now 6th overall. Eric Doyle, Payson, Infelice, our American guests, there they are into 5th overall, as just behind Kayard and Arthur Lopez from Brazil. That second spot, look at those guys, the second, third, second, 24th overall, third and second. Pretty consistent sailing, which is comfortably seeing them in the top 10. Negri and Clean, a super day for them with a 8th and a 4th on 39 overall. And probably perhaps the story of the overall picture, the regatta leaders now, Robert Scheidt, Henry Bjonig, are now down to 2nd overall, giving the regatta lead to the Polish-Portuguese duo of Mateusz Kuznierovic and Federico Melo. Woo, Prof, good day.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's tight, isn't it? I mean, it really is. Like, you know, that's probably the first day as well that I've seen Robert Scheidt and Federico Melo just get on the wrong side of a couple of things. You know, they've typically moved upwards through the fleet, even if they've had a bad start. And I've just seen them just come unstuck a little bit on a couple of shifts, which is very unlike them. And the 3 places that the O'Leary brothers lost at the top of that upwind leg has dropped them out of the top 10. So, you know, it's amazing. You know, one little wind shift, and the wind isn't shifting much, but it could have been a 5-degree right-hander, and they were just a little bit positioned too far to the left, and that's cost them 3 points in the top 10. So that's the 3 points that you got to try and get back, and you're running out of races to do it.
Now, a little point that dear Jonathan, our director, has let me know. If there is no racing tomorrow, you know, if the wind completely dies out, that is the result of the European Championship and the Star Class Breeze Grand Slam. So today has, you know, could have changed the overall results, and it could have seen Robert Scheidt lose the overall championship to Kuznedovich. That is only if there is no racing tomorrow, because today we had a northerly breeze, the Peller, coming from the mountains down into the lake, whereas over the past 3 days we've had the southerly aura fire up and generate the sailing. Tomorrow, the plan is that they will race at 8:30 local time.
Early start for everybody.
So it's an early start. Keep your eyes on the Facebook and YouTube for the potential final qualifying races. They mathematically could do 2 more, but I suspect they would only try for 1. And then we go into the top 10 who will battle in the quarterfinals, the semis and the finals, where the majority of the $100,000 prize money, which has been divvied up amongst the top 20, will go 20,000 for top prize, Prof.
Yeah, absolutely mouth-watering prospect in store. Let's just, fingers crossed, Digby, that we're going to have some good breeze tomorrow and that we can get a full program of racing. But whatever happens, it'll be an absolutely fantastic day tomorrow. I'm pretty confident that we'll have sailing tomorrow. So, but in fairness to the race officer, he's given us every possible chance by giving us an early start time, which is great.
Okay, so that's us. Thank you to all our team and to the lovely Fralia Vela Riva Boat Club around here, our sailing club. That's our broadcast for today. Do join us again early tomorrow. Keep your eyes peeled. We've got a Super Sunday lined up, and we will join you for that.